3 o'clock on this Football Friday. Welcome back.
How we're doing?
Lots to get to on today's program. We are going to talk a lot about football games that will be played on the field. If you follow me on Twitter, you have seen that I have taken a quote from Heather Dinich's article at ESPN.com about the SEC Big Ten meetings yesterday that took place in downtown Nashville, Tennessee. And among the items discussed and what I put out as a quote from Greg Sankey, and I'm paraphrasing now, it's basically, you know what? I was at the Texas-Michigan game, and I want to do more of this. And I am like, hells yes, brother. Let's do it. Let's ride.
I don't want my teams to see each other in conference play, but I want more of this.
Well,
playing other conferences.
TV money being what it is. And look, I know even you do not feel about this quite the way I do. I understand that. But I do, listen, it's one of those things where, like, you got to get on board because status quo isn't going to be what it is. We're not going to revert back to anything that was even worse than this. And as we talked about, you know, a study this week that was put out there, 18% of games at the Power 5 level are played against either FCS or lower G5 opponents. TV doesn't like that. Fans don't like that. When you have a game like that at your local ballpark, wherever it might be, you see empty seats. Why? Because people don't want to see that. Now, you don't see like it's not crickets out there. I get that. But you want a full house, and you want a bunch of eyeballs on the screen. Not, today on the Ocho, we've got dodgeball, followed by Iowa State and Grand Prairie. That's not what we're doing.
These are reserved for the CW after Gilmore Girls.
Right. Or your, Family Feud reruns. Not just regular Family Feud. Reruns.
The old ones.
Which are good, by the way. They are. Anyway, we'll get into some of that. Langston's going to join us. Good game last night. I will say this. Clearly, Jeff Bezos, he's worth a couple bills. The owner of Amazon, even though it's publicly traded, has definitely called the National Football League headquarters in Manhattan and said, hey, really, really tired of games like Browns-Cardinals and, Jaguars, Colts, which could be a good game sometimes, like Peyton Manning and Mark Brunell were still playing. And instead, I'd like you to actually put some teams with a pulse on there, or at least fan bases with a pulse. And they were like, all right, Jeff, we got you. So, we've had the Cowboys and the Giants. We had the Niners last night.
Great uniform matchup.
Yeah, last night they were like old school Seattle uniforms. Everything was old school on the field at Seattle last night. Even the way they played. They were okay for a little while. Niners jumped out to a big lead. Seahawks came back. I like Brock Purdy, man.
He's good.
I like Brock Purdy. And I'll tell you what, I hate the Mr. Irrelevant tag. I honestly, and I know some people think it's just kitschy and funny. I think it's stupid. It's like, do you know how many dudes after that guy are going to sign undrafted free agent contracts?
There's a lot.
Dozens and dozens and dozens. So why are we slapping a label on here that says this guy doesn't matter at all? It's a dumb tag. You could call it something if you want, but Mr. Irrelevant? This dude's been to the Super Bowl. I think eventually he's going to lead them to the Super Bowl. To a victory, victory in the Super Bowl. Last night, and one of the things I was reading about him again last night because I wanted to delve more deeply. I know where he played college ball and all that, but I was like, you know what? I want to look up a couple of things, and that's what I do. And life is show prep, and so I'm reading this and that, and I'm just going to paraphrase. But there was a quote from Steve Young about Brock Purdy and likening him not directly to the physical talent abilities of Patrick Mahomes, but he basically said they came into the league calm. In other words, they've never been directly affected by the speed of the game, by the moment. They just come in and their mind is clear and they know how to play football. And that perhaps if Purdy had not been so up and down, or his team at Iowa State had not been so up and down, he would have been drafted a lot higher. But it was just sort of an afterthought. You take a flyer on the guy, and then suddenly here he is, and he's actually very, very, very good. I mean, that, like, the 2 touchdowns to Kittle, threading the needle, man.
Great throws.
Just and again, the presence and the, you know, the just the ability to say, all right, yes, I can make that, the confidence, if you will, but not like a Brett Favre gunslinger. Brett would have thrown that ball 200 miles an hour. It's almost like Purdy knows exactly, in a Mahomes kind of way, slide it in there, man.
Well, Brett had a little more bleep it in him, right? Where he's like, yeah, I can make this throw.
Yeah, and that's fine. It worked for him. And
no risk aversion. And he does have the record for most career interceptions in the NFL because he did like to just sling it around.
Just sling it. But anyway, good win. The Niners needed it. We'll touch on all that. Obviously, we're going to spend the bulk of our time discussing the Gamecocks and the Alabama Crimson Tide. Carolina remains a 3-touchdown underdog in this one, and the path to victory. I know some roll their eyes. We talk about that when you're a heavy underdog. You know, part of what we do here is to try and break those things down, because the path to victory for Alabama is a rather well-worn, very easy-to-see path. You know, may even be paved in certain spots, more like a sidewalk. But for South Carolina, it's a little dark. It's got those big roots that, you know, they stick out of the path from somewhere and you trip over them. There's pine straw everywhere. You feel like every once in a while there's like the snarl of some animal off to the side as you're trying to go through this path. You don't really know if you want to go down that path because you're not really sure where it's going to end. But then maybe at the end there is a path to victory for South Carolina. It's just going to, more than anything else, this defense is going to have to play the best game it's played in a long time. I'm not sure exactly when. Maybe that Clemson win at Death Valley 2 years ago when the Carolina defense didn't let Clemson score. What, in like the final whatever?
What, 2 minutes? 2
20,
quarters?
Yeah, it was like 20-something minutes. Yeah, something like that. And that might not even do it. You're going to have to be...
You have to be perfect.
I just think, and I think too, I hate to say it, I think you're going to have to be +3 in turnover margin to win this game.
Mm-hmm. You're going to have to trick Jalen Milroe into making some mistakes.
Yeah.
You're going to have to bait him into some throws and be able to get an interception. You're going to have to... on the edge, be able to not just contain the edge and make sure he doesn't break out of the pocket and run for 1,000 yards on you, but you're also going to have to get into the backfield and strip the ball out, and you're going to have to start punching for balls whenever a receiver's got it. You know, it's going to be more than just making a tackle. You have to be more than what you already are, which is, it's really difficult. You're already a top 25 defense. You're going to have to be a top 10 to be able to take down Alabama this weekend.
Before we do anything real quick, let me get cut number 3 here. Let's just let's go ahead and get this out of the way. And I know this is a limited injury report because the official availability report came out last night around 8 o'clock, which we will go over. But here was Coach Beamer from Carolina Calls last night on the health of his team.
Fortune and Campbell are good to go. Credit to them. If you had asked me on Sunday, I probably would have said very not likely that they would play. But they've had great weeks. Campbell, love what he's about. He'll be fine for Saturday. O'Donnell's fine for Saturday. Jerry Brown, Jules, Hunter, and Solomon will all be out. Jerry Brown's got a little bit of a lower body injury. Hopefully get him back soon, but he won't be good enough to go this Saturday.
Wow.
So, yeah, I mean, you
Same,
get,
Todd. Wow.
Yeah, you get one guy back, you know, in the receiving core, but you lose another. And that's one of the big things that I'm going to focus on today, and we've talked about it a bunch this week, is where this coaching staff is in terms of trying to separate the top and the bottom half of this receiving core. Focus on the guys that you feel best about with and without the football, because I just think that matters. And, you know, I haven't looked in over a week. I don't think I looked in the interim. And yesterday was the first time, as we were discussing it, that it really kind of slapped me in the face that South Carolina has only completed 71 passes this season in 5 games.
That's a tough pill to swallow.
I mean,
right there, and a pretty good sign that your offense is just
that's
stuck.
14 passes a game that you're. It's just.
I think the fact that if I was talking to you in July, Jay Phillips, and I said after 5 games, you would not have a single wide receiver average more than 3 or single, not just wide receiver, tight end, running back, whoever, not a single player in your team average more than 3 catches a game, but Navy will have 1 player that is averaging 4 a game. You would not believe me.
No, I would not.
You'd call me a liar.
I'd say that, or you're on something crazy, sniffing glue.
Yeah, huff and paint.
But you're not, because it's real.
Yeah.
And I don't know where it gets better. And that's, again, going all the way back to our visit with Ryan on Tuesday, Ryan Brewer. Yeah, we sat here looking at each other, didn't we? Like,
where do you begin?
And that's what it felt like. And that's not to be alarmist or anything. It's just that's kind of feels like where it is. Brown, Solomon, Hunter, Moore, Jules, as Coach said, all out. Those are the only names, by the way, on the availability report, and that is clearly a lack. Again, they are all listed as out. Everybody else is obviously ready to go. To what degree? I'm doing the shoulder
That's
shrug.
the question to ask for someone like Rocket Sanders. If you're going to win this game, you need him to be Superman.
I don't disagree. All right, Langston on the other side of the break. His thoughts on this one, going to Tuscaloosa, what that's like for football players, especially for the first time. All that and more with him. We'll play Wild Card Showdown a little bit later on. Chance to win some beer. But Elijah's not going to let you because he's on fire.
Nope.
9-1 against the spread in his last 2 contests. So we'll see what happens. 803-404-6100. It's a busy football Friday. You're listening to the Postgame Show. It's mid-October. The fair is in town. Before you know it, the holidays are going to be here, and that means, of course, football continues to heat up and get toward the postseason, both in the college and pro ranks. Basketball, bowl games, so much more, plus all your favorite holiday shows. They're coming up from the parade in November all the way into, everything you want to watch. And if you're ready to do all that better than ever, then it is time for you to call Integrated Media. Beautiful, state-of-the-art HD TVs, almost any size you can imagine, with the prices the same as the big box stores. What you're really paying for here is the amazing expertise of the staff at Integrated Media. Upgrade all your Wi-Fi capabilities to work better all around the house, streaming, working from home, school, whatever you got to do. 803-948-8327. Punch them up on Facebook and Instagram. See what they have done for your friends and neighbors all across South Carolina. Then call them up. Again, 803-948-8327. Do it better with Integrated Media. 18 minutes after 3 o'clock, Friday afternoon. Yes, it is a football Friday. Gamecocks in Tuscaloosa tomorrow. It's a noon kick or just after. 7 o'clock local time. We'll get things started. And watch party tomorrow out at O'Hara's. So that'll be fun.
Very nice.
Yeah.
Very fancy.
They got beer.
They got some good beer, too.
Yeah, they got some good food, too, man. It's good stuff.
Steelworker sandwich. That's the moneymaker, man.
You know, I have not had that. I have.
so
You're not. You
good.
are not alone in recommending that particular item.
Best thing on the menu, man.
Wow.
Get it with the corned beef every time.
All right.
Oh, it's a killer.
All right. Good stuff. Speaking of food, always a good time to talk to our good friend Langston Moore, who kept us well nourished, as we talked about a lot while we were at SEC Media Days in his hometown of Dallas, Texas. He joins us on the guest line now. What do you do? Like, for all the food that you brought us that week, and that was like Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, but when there's a football viewing party in the Langston Moore household, you go out and get, a bunch of, Tex-Mex or Texas barbecue. How's that work?
Just depends. I think it probably depends on what the mood is, like what time of the year. Is it like, the back end of like football season, or is it like, maybe around like Halloween time, you change it up a little bit. Again, it just, again, you don't, when you think with your second brain, which is my stomach, you know what I'm saying, it'll probably lead you into the right direction.
Well, that's good. And there are options, which is always good. By the way, we'll come back around to it, but your Detroit Lions in Dallas this weekend in a rather big game for the Cowboys. And I'd love to know when the last time the Detroit Lions were favored to win in Dallas. That's they don't play in Dallas a lot, I suppose, but
has it ever happened?
I don't know, but we'll come back around to that one. I asked your good friend and former teammate Ryan Brewer what he remembered about going to Tuscaloosa for the first time back in 2000. I'll ask you the very same question. Now, he said, I don't know. I got hit in the head too many times. So I don't know if you're going to take us with that answer or what your memories are of going to Bryant-Denny Stadium.
We had him. That's what I remember. We had Andrew Zhao. He somehow fumbled it into the end zone, which was like a thing you couldn't do now. If you saw last week, you fumbled out through the end zone. Juice Wells, that wasn't quite that, but they recovered and they were able to score the touchdown. I just remember it was a very nice cathedral-esque type stadium. So, it's everything everybody says about the environment of, like, Alabama. It can be kind of subdued, just depends upon, like, it's going to have the flashing lights. It's going to have, everything short of, like, a real elephant. And that's probably the one most disappointing thing, like, in life. Like, what the hell is wrong with Alabama? Like, you don't want to win. You don't go get you a real elephant, man. Like, have it parading around, dancing on the ball, on the field. Like, I want to see that. If you're really serious about winning, that might be probably why they lost to Vanderbilt last week, but that was an away game. But no, it's a great environment. But this might be one of those deals like everybody's been talking about all week. Like, it's going to be one of those deals where it's 11 a.m. kickoff Central Time. It's kind of like a, the expectation of what should happen to South Carolina from Alabama fans. Like, they don't feel like they need to be early or on time for that. They should, for the most part, maybe look a little bit online and say, maybe we don't go in quite yet for the tailgate. They should be up by 14 by now. But the whole point is that might be something to our advantage for South Carolina coming out playing hot. And again, I always say that earlier games always are advantageous for the teams. Advantageous for the road teams if you can really have your team right and get your mind right, because there's nothing like going on the road and sticking it to a team early in the day before they wake up what's going on, and then everybody's really mad for the rest of their weekend.
I don't know if not just the University of Alabama, if the state of Alabama, if the Southeast United States is ready for an elephant as a live mascot on the sideline of any sporting event.
All I'm picturing now, I've just been laughing through the whole, I heard everything you said, but I'm just picturing like Nick Saban in a Bear Bryant houndstooth, riding the elephant.
With the hound, running out the elephant, just, oh, man, come on. Man, I just imagine more so like, what was the mouse from Dumbo that kind of like was, that probably would have been more of an accurate description of that. But like, if LSU can have a tiger, Jay, why can't Alabama? That's the problem. That's the problem. Right? I see that's why they've fallen off this cliff like that. It's not DeBoer, it's not his shirt. No, they don't got no elephant. That's the problem. Get a real mascot. We got one.
I mean, Colorado's got a real buffalo. Texas has big old bevo. I mean, these are large These are large animals, man. They're not elephant big, but at least the elephant ain't going to run that fast.
Yeah, the elephant is pretty large. It would be a very lethargic-looking run out of the tunnel if you had to follow the elephant.
Well, that's the thing. I don't want them. I don't want them like giving the elephant amphetamines or something.
I mean, that might not be like the most cruel treatment I'm sure some animals have gotten at sporting events over the course of the 100-year history of college football. But there was a pretty cruel display, I guess, to a degree, with how the offense handled their business on Saturday once they crossed the 50-yard line. 7 times, Langston Moore, 7 times the South Carolina Gamecocks crossed the 50. 0 times did they get into the end zone. All week long, we've talked about the offense. And before we get into the matchup with Alabama, elephant excluded, I want to go back just to last Saturday and get some of your thoughts on what's wrong with this offense, what's missing. There's a lot of things that seem to not be working, but what do you think are probably the more pressing issues that they're facing?
For one, we got to make sure we got the right goal in place. Like crossing the 50 is one goal, but crossing the goal line gets you points, and points leads you to wins. And I mean, we understand that, but we can manipulate numbers to be and make it seem like whatever. So, but I think we all understand how this game kind of works. But for our offense, like it comes back to like identity of what we do. Yeah, we have some pieces, and even though we hear some stuff about like the wide receiver and not having like a true it's been shown that Mazio Bennett and just the numbers with the Nick Harbor. I just want to use my college football 2025. I'm gonna try Nick Harbor down the sideline at least 3 or 4 times just because it's Saturday morning and he's dressed up. Like you loose? Like I don't even need to ask you that because you should be loose. But like that doesn't dictate. That's what the main reason why we're going. It goes back to like identity and what it is we want to be on the field, and it feels like a lot of pressing, and it goes back to also to this number one thing about protection. Like, yeah, it's great we have a whole bunch of quarterback sacks on the defense, but we've also given up like 22 sacks and pressures on the offense. So it's like nullifying everything. It's like a really advantageous defense that gets a whole bunch of turnovers, but we nullify it by giving over 6 more turnovers. So it kind of washes itself out and negates kind of the strength of some of the things that we do. So offensively, nothing cures that more than running the football, but we know we've had some issues with Rocket and his ankle. And again, like I said, there's nothing better than going on the road, and you got to use your run game, pack your run game, however you do it, to try to get some hayway, to try to get some pressure off of Lenoris, so he doesn't have to make those decisions. Now, again, there's been a whole bunch of different opportunities for him to utilize his legs and his athleticism, but just making it really simple on the kid, and again, taking an old Buddy Pueism, we're going to try to make him do the things that make him successful. So, maybe it's cutting the field down to one side. We're only looking at these 2-man routes. Again, I'm clamoring always with the old school screen draws and delays. I'm looking for more and more of those of that, because again, those are things that help your team out when it's second and long, and different ways to try to spread the ball out, do some different things with that. So who knows? But I think ultimately the biggest thing is that we got to get the rush game. We got to figure out some ways to protect the quarterback, and try to. You don't want to put the reins on somebody like Lenoris Sellers because of all his athleticism, but then also too, you don't want it to be just a wild horse out there and just bucking and throwing for 3 or 4 picks, or subjecting themselves to a whole bunch of hits that are unnecessary.
Shows you what I know, which is very, very little about things like this. Amphetamines are apparently a stimulant, not a depressant. So whatever the equivalent is of an amphetamine in a depressant form, that's what I was really talking about with an elephant. To come back around to that. Now,
Jay's going to think about this the entirety of the show.
Yeah, no, this is another one of those things this week. So that's just, I got things that I've now, what do you say? I've fixated.
You're fixated,
I'm fixated on these kinds of things. But now all I can think of is again, Langston's in fact, that's going to be the theme of my next question, but I'm going to hold it.
Ooh, yes.
Yeah, but I now all I'm thinking about is an elephant doing tricks on the field at Bryant-Denny. But that will not be what my next question is. But you'll see where I'm going to take Mr. Moore. Lots more to do with Langston as the postgame show continues on this Football Friday.
My friends, we fell a little bit short last night in our prize picks for Thursday Night Football. But you know what? We get back at it. That's what we do. We get knocked down and we get up again. You're never going to keep us down. Tonight, I am all over Haj Malik Williams, quarterback for UNLV, to get more than 198.5 passing yards, and the quarterback for Maryland, Billy Edwards, to have more than 252.5 passing yards as well. Prize Picks is so easy. You just pick more or less on at least two players, like I did right there, and you can get a shot to win up to 100 times your cash. And the best part, they invented Flex Play, one of the best parts, which means you can still cash out if your lineup isn't perfect, can still get to double your money, even if one of your picks doesn't hit. And once I win again, I can get my money out as fast as 15 minutes. It's just that easy. Just download the app today, use code 1075GAME to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Again, that code is 1075GAME. Prize Picks. Run your game.
.332 on this Football Friday. Welcome back in. Jay and Elijah with you. Our good friend Langston Moore joining us on the guest line as we get ready for Carolina and Alabama tomorrow afternoon. Langston, of course, former Gamecock D lineman, team captain, longtime NFLer, draft pick of the Cincinnati Bengals, who also need a win this weekend. We'll talk about that with Langston in just a minute. Husband, father, barbecue aficionado, softball expert, And now gets to travel a lot to our nation's capital where his daughter is playing college softball. So that's pretty cool, too. I do love D.C. We'll talk about the food in D.C. At another point in time. All right, so, Langston, you got me thinking about an elephant on the field. As Elijah has said this week, I've been fixated on something else. You and I texted about this thing on Saturday, and that is the failed fake punt and the decision to do it in that particular moment. I don't want you to really talk about that so much, but I do want to ask you, as a football player, how that affects the team in the moment. Do you guys have the same abilities to block that kind of thing out, or is it something, like I have said all week, that just seems to loom over every other decision throughout the course of the game?
Well, to keep it with the elephant kind of theme, it's like Stampy from The Simpsons. With when Bart had an elephant, Stampy. His nickname it's kind of stamped out the momentum that we had, even though it was a punt and it was 4th and short, because the subsequent field positions after that were very similar, and we had 4th and short in those instances. And to your point, Jay, it kind of just made everything like, And I'm always of the mindset, unless your offense is like Air Force, and we can't even use that as like a pejorative now, right? Because those teams are like, our Navy or Army, because they're all two of them are undefeated, I think.
Yeah.
Usually when it's time for that. Yeah, usually when it's time for them to get some yards and they try to be sneaky a little bit after, they might pull a little fake punt. They might pull a fumble rooski. The old 1942, tuck it underneath your jersey, the college right, something like that, and then they got you. But if you're in the SEC and you need to get 2 to 3 yards, or I think it was 3 or less yards at that point, you keep your offense on the field because that's what they do. But again, I don't know. Maybe it was a decision where I've been on teams where like a coach has said something all offseason. The very first play we're going to run and to start the season is going to be YX powered, but I don't care because this is what we're going to do. And you might live and die with that, but you also got to be smart enough to be like, man, they came out and like goal line defense, man, because they heard a press clipping or something. I'm not saying that's what happened, but maybe coach made up his mind. And we're known for having kind of some of the beamer ball. And I think to your point, Jay, like all of that kind of like just not to say that players don't overcome and understand adversity. There's 4 quarters in the game. There's still a lot. But, trying to keep the crowd engaged, trying to utilize all these things to our advantage to take advantage of a team. And to my point, the psyche of the team and the team across the way, it felt like we couldn't have been aggressive in the subsequent kind of 2 or 3 drives, maybe the next 2 out of the 3 or 4 drives. It was very similar situations at the middle of the field where it's like, oh, we could have gone for it, but we already kind of, messed it up. We kind of got egg on our face. We fell down or something like that. So I think, it was one of those deals where, I wish it would have been a little bit more creative. If you're going to go for it, okay, go for it. But also kind of like college football 2025, my man, we got to like, okay, if we went for it to that point, man, we're going for it at every point at this point of the game because ultimately the game was very, very close, 27-3, but it didn't feel like that just because of the momentum swings, different things like that going back and forth. And I think that's one of the through lines we can kind of carry through back to that early decision throughout the game.
And defensively, Langston, I thought South Carolina did a phenomenal job of at least keeping yourself in the game and minimizing damage as much as possible. I know Ole Miss got out to 14 quick points, but a lot of that was due to field position. But once you forced Ole Miss to have to drive the field, they didn't do it anywhere near as efficiently as they did when they were handed really good field position by way of turnover on downs or a fumble. But Jay brought up a question earlier this week of at what point do you need your defense to be even better, right? Like they're already really good. It's top 25 unit in the country according to ESPN's SP+, and I feel like a reasonable human could agree that this is one of the top 25 best defenses in America. But what can they do to get past maybe top 25 and into top 10 territory where maybe that's going to be the way you're going to have to start stealing games is by holding teams to under 16 points?
I think it's keep doing what we're doing, but just don't make the mistakes. Jumping off sides, i.e. doing that. We saw that's cost us multiple penalties. Celebration, we don't even have to get into that. That's a whole different deal. Like, again, we're not good enough. We ain't made enough plays to do that, nor have you made enough plays to be out there doing that because that's that whole Lou Holtz. Hey, just look at me. You feeling down in the game. You made a play, but we still down by this much. So, again, he did it again right afterwards, but at his teammates. So, again, I don't know how much is learned. So, again, you can't, if you know there's going to be limitations on what you can do special teams-wise because maybe we don't have the identity, or we're changing up some philosophies and creativity, so we're not going to be that way. Offensively, we're still trying to find our swag. So, again, that's the one thing about constant with defense is that I can run well, I can line up on sides, I can be aligned, I can do all these things, and couple that with the talent that I might already have, and we know that we have some talent at a lot of spots. We can't do it and mitigate the things that we can do well by having a whole bunch of dumb penalties and putting ourselves into place like that. And this is the thing about defenses, and this is the thing we've seen with lesser teams or Gamecock teams in the past. Sometimes when these teams get hot, you have like an Antonio Allen that just goes on a run, or Eric Norwood that goes on a run. We've seen early on in this year with the Dylan Stewarts and the Kennards. I mean, that's the one thing about really starting off really well. The ascension is on, so they kind of got you. Now after 5 games, how are you going to respond to the different ways that teams are going to attack you, or attack the defense? Part of that is going to be the coaching, but you as a player, you just got to make sure you ratchet up and be on the details more than anything, and you'll have more than enough plays to make it, but they'll start coming in bunches as well. And again, as we can see, it feels like this is kind of the MO with this team. When one guy kind of gets going, the other guy gets going, and we can't have enough of that for this Gamecock team until we figure out what we want to do on offense, because those things will lead to points and short fields for us.
Langston, you touched on this a little bit earlier in terms of the early start, and we know who Alabama lost to last week. We know how they lost. How can South Carolina, in your opinion, try and take advantage of any type of mental letdown that Alabama may still be feeling? I don't know that this crowd comes out tomorrow and looks at South Carolina a whole lot differently expectation-wise than they may have looked at Vanderbilt last week. I don't say that to knock Carolina. I just say Alabama's like going, oh, here comes Georgia. Here comes LSU. Here comes Florida even, or something, or Tennessee. Is there a way for this Carolina team to surprise somebody, come out like you did against LSU, and figure out how to just take Alabama directly out of this game?
Well, let's take the cues that we saw from that LSU game early on. It was a lot of, just very clear and decisive on offense, what we wanted to do. Defensively, we came out there. We got the threes. It felt like we were the more physical team earlier on, and that's what we're going to have to do, because I think that's one of the things when it's going to boil down to it. If Coach DeBoer has been doing it right, you've been trying to prime these players to really explode on Saturday, because that was one of the biggest things. After a loss like that, or to a team where we shouldn't have lost to a team like that, or we're on the cusp of it, those Monday and Tuesday practices are really brutal, because you're taking all your you're the kid punching your pillow and you're, oh man, I can't take it. And so it's just grown men doing this for a living out there on Monday. You don't want them to do that. You want to save a whole bunch of that. And so again, that emotion to remember all of that, because again, I think it's going to be one of those deals for Alabama and for South Carolina for us to utilize that for ourselves. Like, we can come out there and start making some plays, but Alabama will kind of fight back. And I think their answer for anything that we're going to do is just going to be physicality and keep it clean. Because ultimately, they know they have players in certain spots. They have some deficiencies in certain spots that we could take advantage of with DBs and different things. Again, this would be a great time to get Nick Harbor or some of these guys going. So, again, if we were able to get up on those, I still think that Alabama feels like, we can, when it's all said and done, we're going to test this tackling. We're going to see if they want to put their face in the sand, as the old Musch-championism. So I think it's one of those deals we got to make sure that, it's a 4-quarter game. And that's one of the things I think where we kind of blinked a little bit with LSU a couple of weeks ago. We had them physically in a part of the game, but it feels like we kind of waned a little bit and they took over. For us, it's just got to be a relentless beatdown in somebody else's house early in the morning before they even know, hey, what's going on? And by the time you look up, you're like, oh, man, how did this happen 2 weeks in a row? But again, supremely talented at quarterback. Still have the to the core and to the DNA of what they are. If you need any other clue of what that is, just turn out to the Paul Feinbaum where the guy says, yeah, losing to Vanderbilt, you lose to South Carolina this week, we send in the moving truck to your house, DeBoer. So that lets you know everything about the psyche and the DNA about this team.
Right. And I mean, and when looking at this Alabama team too, I mean, it's really fun to watch Jalen Milroe play, because he is such a great scrambler, and you had a really good scrambling quarterback come into your house this past Saturday with Jackson Dart, but quite frankly, Jackson Dart is nowhere near the athlete Jalen Milroe is. So what's going to be the key for South Carolina to be able to at least keep him in the pocket and not let him break out of the pocket, scramble, and pick up over 100 yards in the ground? Because they run the ball well enough as is. They run it even better whenever he's able to escape.
Right. So that's going to be the deal. You got to earn your right to earn that pass rush deal. So it's not a 3rd and 5 an ambiguous kind of deal. Where is it Milrow? Is it the running game? Is it some RPO type of deal? Is it are they going to go video game on me real quick right here? Who knows? You want to completely eliminate that by stopping the run, figuring out ways to put them in long distance situations. So then you get the situation where you got to kind of get 4 guys, 5 guys rushing as one, however you want to do it. Now, again, you can put the spy on them, but whoever you want to spy, you could spy, probably Nick Harbor on this kid, but I mean, he's just phenomenal in speed and athleticism just to be able to manipulate the pocket when it breaks down. You just got to be careful how to utilize that because sometimes you end up having a spy and it's a waste. So maybe you're better off sending a rusher to try to get him to move one way or the other and corral him with the 4 guys rushing as one. So that sounds kind of crazy, but the defensive line, 4 guys just can't be running around as a coach said, like a blind dog in a meat house. You just got to be you got to have a plan, upfield shoulder, compressing them in those pockets and try to make sure they don't have those lanes. And that's the one kind of scary thing, and that's the one thing we have seen with Milrose, that we knew he had a whole bunch of athleticism. He can run around, he can chuck it. But now since DeBoer's come, it feels like this is like the quarterback coach, the teacher that he's needed, that we all saw the benefit of Washington having with the young man that went to the Falcons, that kind of a lot of that has been rubbing off on Milrow, and we've seen that with a lot of this. I mean, again, 2 interceptions, a lot of passes through the air, different teams take away, but it feels like Milrow has taken another step in his just pure passing deal as a quarterback this year. Couple that with his athleticism, that makes it scary.
We got to do more of this where we just don't talk football and just have Langston just come back with like nothing but cool sayings, like, again, blind dog in the meat house, put your face in the fan.
We're writing these down.
I gotta. You need this needs to be book 4, man. But we'll touch on that more with Langston. Get into a few NFL thoughts and his final look at Carolina at Bama when the postgame show returns. Welcome back in. Post-game show rolling on this Football Friday. Jay and Elijah with you, joined for a few more minutes by our good friend, the former Gamecock and NFLer Langston Moore, who is also, of course, partnered up with our colleague Preston Thorne for the Just a Chicken series of children's books. You can find that. You can find the Butt and Gut podcast, the Fight podcast, how to get Langston and Preston into a school. Not to fight. Not to fight. They're not going to fight. Well, they might. I don't know. It's up to them, and what the setting is all about.
Depends how the day goes.
Yeah, I was going to say. I mean, there could be, if anybody took a wrong turn on the way to the school. But you can go to athletesandartists.net, and there you will find all the information about those fantastic books, which are great holiday gifts. They really are, especially for that young Gamecock reader in your life. And again, all the podcasts and so much more, athletesandartists.net. Tip of the cap to the great Kev Roche as well for everything that he does, too. How is Kev? I hadn't talked to Kev in a while. You doing all right?
He's doing well. He's got a young. When does the child go from a newborn to being like a toddler? When they start just tearing up
one.
stuff?
I just say one.
Yeah, it's getting close. Yeah, so he still has a newborn. So, we get Kev at reasonable hours now. Before we used to catch him about 1, 2 o'clock in the afternoon. Now he's at 5 a.m. in the morning. I'm like, who is this? It's got to be somebody hacking Kev's phone. He's texting this early in the morning. Still texting about sports stuff and, things that are, nothing world moving my baby's growing and nothing. No, it's just man, did you know, it'd be some fun random fact. And that's the beauty of group chats in the morning.
Your Cincinnati Bengals really need a win if they're going to make the playoffs. They're not going to be eliminated or anything. They go to the Giants, which seems to present a nice opportunity. What do you believe is most wrong with Cincinnati after the 1-4 start?
Like I said, it's kind of tough when, and I think Joe Burrow just put it out there. Man, we just, we got to figure out a way. Score 30-some points, but Joe basically saying, man, it ain't my fault. I was out here slinging that thing, and it wasn't like I was turning over the ball. Again, not having a run game, I think, is something that really has hurt the Bengals. Even though they're putting up points, it can't be arena football. At some point, you got to run the ball out. It's one way for the Baltimore Ravens to put up their 30 points, how they do it, methodically, slowly. I mean, it was just a slowly. I mean, no better look than that at the end when then Henry was just chipping away. For the most part, the Bengals had them all day, and then that one explosive run just crumbles you. And I think it's kind of indicative of what's been going on with the Bengals. They have a lot of little pieces, little chunks here, but they can't get stops on defense consistently. They've been ravaged by injuries. I mean, that's kind of like the MO of Lou Amaretto Sour's defense is you keep everything in front, and I just think that drink ain't working no more. A lot of folks have been getting the yards in between, and they've been scoring on them, so it looks doubly bad. And everybody else has been pressing, so there's only so much Joe Burrow can do. And I think he made it really apparent in that post-game presser. Yeah, man, we just we got to, get it together. Short of saying, I don't tackle. I just throw the touchdowns. That's what it sounded like to me.
How excited should all of us be for Jaden Daniels' trip to Baltimore to take on Lamar?
I mean, we should all be excited, but he shouldn't be excited because, again, they coming. But, again, I think Coach Kingsbury, everything that's going on up there, they just done a really nice job of setting him up for success. And so, again, this trend of quarterbacks is something we could talk about at a different time, but these older quarterbacks, because you always want to try to get the young guy. Man, if I could just get Trevor Lawrence after his sophomore year, or sometimes it seems from all the way from out there from the 49ers starting quarterback to Jaden Daniels to even Bo Nix or your guy out there looking at these quarterbacks who have had some success high level and playing a lot of football in college prepares them, and of course put them in the right situation, has been a caveat to really helping these kids, these younger next up and coming echelon of quarterbacks on their way there. And I think Jaden Daniels is going to have a phenomenal career, but I think it's going to be one of those things where Jim Harbaugh and the rest of them cats going to be hey, we run the DMV. This is us. We don't forget. And it might be one of those deals where all that, ageism and everything I'm talking about, he got all this experience. He's still going to go out there and try to press and impress the guy across from him when you better be trying to figure out how to dodge that defensive scheme that they're going to put against you.
A little less than a minute. Your final thoughts, best path to victory for South Carolina tomorrow. They must do what?
figure out some ways to stop the run for Alabama, put them in long situations. Because, again, what do? Just getting after a quarterback, affecting the quarterback. We're seeing multiple holding calls, different things that are benefiting us. We do that. We start getting them kind of seeing ghosts and doubting themselves again. Couple that with a running game. Get a special teams deal. Again, you got to pack your tackling, your special teams, and your defense when you go on the road. You do that and some toughness. Who sees what can happen, man? It's 11 o'clock. They still might be getting the crust out of their eyes before they figure out that that houndstooth pattern and stuff didn't match up right. They should have started the day over.
Good stuff as always, sir. Best to the family. We'll check in again real soon.
Yeah, absolutely. We appreciate it.
That is our good friend Langston Moore. Remove the chains to follow along on Twitter. And once again, athletesandartists.net for Just a Chicken Little, Used to Was a Rooster, Button Gut Podcast, the Fight Podcast, Carolina Clemson 04, so much more on there. Good stuff. One of my favorites. Been thinking about that Texas barbecue the whole time, too. Again, I got to quit fixating, as Elijah has told me.
Especially on food, because that can make me hungry.
Well, I'm afraid it's too late.
Which happens
now.
A lot anyway.
More from Shane Beamer and, again, reaction to the SEC Big Ten meetings yesterday. Where do we go next? Hour 2 coming up. I want to tell you about our good friends at Minuteman Press, just literally a block away from us right here on Gervais Street in downtown Columbia. But they've got a national scope when it comes to helping you grow your business. What they're able to do is give you all the marketing and advertising things you can possibly think of. In fact, 300,000 different items, signs, banners, embroidery for hats, for shirts, all the things you can do when you're out there in the public to let everybody know who you're working with, screen printing, laser engraving, all kinds of promotional products, as I said. And even though they are local, owned right here in Columbia by Ken and Anna Holloway, they've got 900 locations across the country. That means they have incredible buying power, and you can market your business for less money. So go in and see them. They've got a showroom open right here in downtown Columbia, ready to help you out. And just, again, great people in the old Apex building, ready to make sure that your business grows. That's our friends at Minuteman Press. Log on to Minuteman.com and learn more. 4 o'clock here on a Friday afternoon, a football Friday. Welcome back in. Jay Phillips, Elijah Campbell with you. We're inside the Herndon Chevy Studios in downtown Columbia. Beautiful day in the capital city. I mean, like, Chamber of Commerce kind of day.
It's a fall day, baby. I'm rocking the New Orleans Saints crew neck sweatshirt.
Nice.
Some khaki pants.
Yeah.
Some chacos.
I told you I was doing
today. This is great. This is perfect weather for this.
Long sleeve and shorts for a few weeks here.
Undefeated.
So that's what I'm doing.
Undefeated.
I've got my USA, my old school, like this is my 2010 World Cup USA soccer jersey on. In addition to all of the football I'll be watching this weekend, United States will be debuting Mauricio Pochettino as their new head coach. Very excited.
It's a new era.
Those of you who don't know, he's played for a Champions League title. Didn't win, but he's played for a Champions League title. He's won the French League when he was in Paris. He was very good at Tottenham for several years.
He was.
Did a pretty good job at Chelsea last year, considering all their horrid ownership decisions.
Thankful for his service.
And then they fired him, which was stupid because they won like their last 5 or 6 games in a row. They're like, yeah, that's not good enough. You're fired.
He wins wherever he goes.
He's a very good coach, and I'm very excited for the United States to have him on board.
I'm telling you, I don't know if there's any like league on the planet of any sport that just recycles coaches quite like Premier League soccer. If you're at a place for more than like 5 years,
I mean, is NBA it's probably Premier League and NBA, man?
I would say, I'd go NHL over NBA even.
I don't know enough about the NHL. I believe you.
Oh, dude, the coaching pool in the NHL is straight up incestuous.
Oh yeah.
It is gnarly. There'll be dudes that'll coach like 6 different teams.
Yeah.
John Hines is not a good coach, and that man has coached like 5 different stops.
Well, I mean, didn't Lenny Wilkens coach every team in the NBA?
That's true. Lenny Wilkens, yeah. The NBA is not far behind, and Major League Baseball might be a step back behind the NBA.
Terry Francona is about to manage his third team. Dusty had what, 4, 5?
Reds,
Dusty,
Giants,
5.
Astros.
5.
Yeah.
Giants, Nationals.
Nationals, I forget
Cubs.
about the Nationals. Yeah, Cubs too. Yeah, absolutely. Lupinella made his rounds too.
Yep. Not Bobby Cox, just 2.
Nope.
The Braves, real quick, and then because we don't have a news segment today, so I do want to get into this just for 1 second, and then we get back into the football. The Braves did make a couple of moves yesterday. I'm not too surprised by this. Nothing earth-shattering, but they did fire longtime hitting coach Kevin Seitzer, who'd been with the team 10 years. In fact, I did not know this until this morning. He has been a hitting coach longer than any other hitting coach in baseball currently by like a few years. So he's really been in the job a long time. Maybe they come, maybe they go. Maybe that's part of the point that was being made in that article. His assistant hitting coach, Bobby Magallanes, has also been fired, and catching coach Sal Fasano was let go as well. They say Sal's job's not going to be made up or like filled. It's just going to go away. It was kind of created for Sal Fasano to come in and be a catching coach. I don't know if it's fair to have fired Kevin Seitzer when you consider, and I'm not, look, in the grand scheme, look, I don't know enough about what those guys are going to do. Anyway, I figured that dudes that all make 8-figure salaries should be able to hit the baseball. But when you don't have Ronald Acuna for most of the season, he got hurt in May. And then, again, Austin Riley, Michael Harris, Ozzie Albies, and Sean Murphy, who were all, either all-stars or very close to it last season, miss at least 2 months of the year. Is it the hitting coach's fault? I don't know, but they were the point that David O'Brien of The Athletic was making is that the Braves just kind of evaluated things this week, took a really deep look, and said even when we had a lot of these guys back, there was just something was lacking. And you know what? There are times when you do just need to make changes. Now, Braves Twitter blew up last night. Chipper's going to do it. Chipper's going to do it. Chipper's going to do it. Chipper's not going to do it. That's apparently been made abundantly clear. I don't think Chipper wants to do it, for one thing.
Not all great players make.
Well, Chipper was for a couple of seasons. Chipper was sort of like a hitting consultant for the Braves. He would come in and work with the guys in Atlanta. He went down to spring training for a couple of weeks. He did not travel. And Chipper does like this, even though he home is Atlanta. I mean, I imagine he's got homes, but seriously, he's got like a huge ranch that he bought in Texas, and he's out there a lot. Whether it's ranching or he does it for ranching, he hunts out there. I think Chipper likes his life, to be perfectly honest with you, and he did all right. So
he can do whatever he wants.
Yeah, and he does not want to be a full-time major league hitting coach. So it's not going to be Chipper Jones. I got zero idea who the candidates are. DOB didn't put any of that in his piece today. Apparently, the Braves haven't even made this officially official, but everybody seems to know it. And if David's putting it out there, then it's happening. So Braves did make a couple of moves. You know what? I'll be the hitting coach if everybody's healthy, and just say, you with the strong arms, hit the ball far.
You there, go hit a home run.
Yeah. Okay, Skip. I'd like it to be that easy.
Yeah.
I'd like it to be. So,
Hey, that's what they did last year. That's all they did last year. Hey, you there with a stick. You mean the bat? No, yes. Whatever.
That's what hurt, man.
Go swing that thing. Hit a home run.
That's what hurt, because they were really, 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 really good at baseball last season.
But you also, and I think you just reeled off the names of 4 or 5 guys. So like half the lineup.
Well, I mean, last year, look,
like,
I know I'm a big fan, and you could make you could debate it with LA maybe last season, who also was eliminated early. The Braves were the best team in baseball last year.
Over the course of 162 games, 100%.
I mean, they could hit, they could field, they could throw, they could pitch. You got starting ERA good, bullpen ERA good. This year they did lead the National League in ERA, but apparently you have to score more runs than the other team to win games.
That's a bummer.
Yeah. I think sometimes they should just look at the team and go, they just seem to be better on paper. And just let that, especially in baseball, that should be good for like 10 wins a year.
I feel like that team just looks better.
Yeah. It's a sharp uniform. They look like they know what they're doing. Yeah.
These uniforms are fantastic. This year, the World Series champions will be the San Diego Padres on swag alone, on aesthetics.
I'm not pulling for San Diego. I'm sorry.
I'm pulling for them so hard.
I know. But again, whoever wins that series tonight, I will be pulling for against the New York Metropolitans.
It's going to be the Padres, and we're going to be cheering for the Padres
I think can kick rocks
together.
Go other team, beat Mets. Mets kick rocks.
We recreate the Rob Lowe picture where he's wearing like the NFL hat, but we need to find a hat that just says NL West, and we need to let you wear it and take a picture of you in front of the TV saying, "This is who I'm cheering for tonight." I've
tweeted it out a few times over the years.
West.
I don't know if you've ever seen it. I have from a game back in the '90s. I still have it. They were handing out "Go Braves, Beat Mets" like placards, little just like cardboard signs from the AJC at a game. And I've still got it, man. It's all beat up. I got it on the wall at my house. But I think I'm going to cover it, or either superimpose whatever, go, and I'll just put the logo
of whoever.
And then it says Beat Mets on the bottom. Because that's all I care about now. That is all I care about in the Major League Baseball playoffs now. Again, the Phillies or Mets were going to win that series. That, sadly, was a provable fact. And it has been proven that the Mets won. So there's that. Now, I just want the Mets to lose. I don't care who wins the World Series. I just don't want it to be the bleeping Mets. So that's just how I feel. All right, 803-404-6100, Carolina at Alabama. Michael is on the line, wants to talk about what this offense is going to have to do because, Michael, kind of like the Braves, Carolina has to score more points than the other guy to win the game. How you doing?
What's up, guys? How are y'all today?
All right, bud.
All right. Kind of want to talk about, of course, the offense. I think there are some reasons that people will say why the offense isn't performing like it should be, like play calling, execution. But I think it's mostly because I just don't think Dow completely knows how to use Lenore Sellers. And I say this because when you think about last year with Rattler, the offense had success when we dropped back to pass and Rattler had time to throw the ball. And it's kind of easy to do that when you have, an NFL quarterback and an NFL wide receiver out there, just let him sit back there and dot him up. That's easy to do. But when it comes to Noah Sellers, who's not, a passer like Rattler is, or he's still developing to be that, you have to find other ways to get the offense going rather than just doing that. And I think he's tried, but I just don't think he has a complete idea of knowing how to do that. And so I think in order for us to, shock the world and beat Bama, he's just going to have to be more creative. He's going to have to find different ways for Sellers to succeed without just strictly relying on what he's been relying him to do this whole season. So hopefully to see what we can do this weekend, and hopefully everybody has a good weekend.
Yeah, all right, Michael, thanks you.
Thanks, Michael.
I agree with parts of what you said. Look, Spencer last year did have Leggett to bail him out a lot. Spencer was sacked. What was it?
I think it was
60?
Might have been 60.
60?
Might have been in the 60s.
How often was he under duress? And he was very good at making plays. Where I agree with you, Michael, is in the creativity department, but I don't know if you mean creativity in the sense of like dreaming up new plays, or because I don't. Maybe creativity isn't the right word. We've talked about this week. Where are the plays that Lenoris feels most comfortable in? Because a lot of times Lenoris, in my opinion, and I know I'm not alone, if the play is breaking down, he reverts to what he's always known, and that is, I can get out of this because I am a big man that runs fast. And it's true. But in this league, that doesn't get you as far as it used to. I mean, who do we have on the other day? I can't remember now. It's not like you're doing it against West Florence or Wilson. I think it was Gunner and me talking about some of that. And it's like, yeah, you're right. It's not. I know it's easy to blame the play caller, in this case, Dowell. I think Elijah made a good point earlier in the week, though, Michael, and really more of this might not be Dowell's in-game play calling or decision-making, but rather how is Dowell working to make Lenoris better? Do we have time? We don't. I tell you what, let me hit a break. There's plenty to get to from Shane, but Michael, I'm going to stay with your thought and your point, but Dowell gave a very detailed answer of what he and Lenoris are doing to make Lenoris a better quarterback from a pure quarterback coaching perspective. And I think that fits into what we're talking about. We'll do that for you. Lots to do on Football Friday. It's the postgame show. Palmetto Propane, been in business for a long, long time, delivering propane to homes and businesses, farms all across the Midlands of South Carolina and beyond. And now with their Hearth and Patio home store showrooms, they are bringing propane-fueled appliances into your life, into your home. Stop in and see. Listen, y'all, it's going to be in the 40s the next few nights, right? Like, this is fun. Like, yay. I remember when it felt good in Columbia to do that. Well, might be time to, not only crank up the heat, but how about the fire? Or maybe outdoor fire features. Watching a little football this weekend out back, have a little fire going out there. Stop by and see them in Aiken, West Columbia, Batesburg, Lexington, and Augusta. And what they can do for you now, all year long through the holidays, plus those Renai tankless water heaters. It's great stuff, man. Check them out online. Love these folks. Palmetto Propane, and online, palmettopropane.com. 19 minutes after 4 o'clock on this Friday afternoon. Welcome back into the postgame show. I want to remind you, the Lawyer Lisa Special Teams Contest rolling along. If Carolina gets a special teams touchdown tomorrow, somebody is going to win $600. Here's how it works. We put $100. Well, we don't. Lisa does.
She puts you have a mouse in your pocket?
That's right. No,
I don't
Lisa.
put $100 anywhere, buddy.
Lisa has a big jar at her office. She drops $100 in it every week. And, it's $100 a game. So we're on game 6. That's how this works. Again, math, which I'm not great at, but I can do simple math. And a special teams touchdown, you win. Last year it took till game 10, $1,000 winner.
Vanderbilt game.
Yeah. Maybe that happens again. May need that to beat Vanderbilt. I don't know.
Vanderbilt's pretty good. This isn't last year's Vanderbilt team. That was then. This is now.
It is not. So
you got to walk into that unfinished house and beat them.
Register today, 1075thegame.com. You have to register to win.
Yep. Can't win if you don't register.
Good luck. And we'll see what happens. Just had a phone call. If you just tuned in during the break, listener Michael, who's called us before, asking about the offense, saying, listen, I just think Dowell's got to do a little bit more to get Lenoris going the right way. And that was something that was discussed this week. We have that cut from
it's 18 from yesterday.
Yes, that's right. Yes, that one. Yes, sir. So let's let you hear it. Here's Dowell on what they are doing together to make Lenoris a better quarterback.
Yeah. Also on yes on all of it. Yes. Also, that put in the degree of we got to create separation wide receiver as well to win. Everything's easy when number 1 is open. When you got to get to number 2, that's when pass protection's at a premium. It's where route separation, it's a premium. It's the timing of a drop is at a premium. So that's what I'm saying. It's not just, I always if y'all want to blame anyone, you always start with me. It's easy. That's my job, is to help these guys be successful. And we didn't do that enough in this last game. So then you start looking at, do we stack bunch more? Do we create some access into some free releases for our wide receivers? What do we do to help those guys get open versus press coverage more? Or, those things. So when you start getting to 2 and 3 and 4 in the progression, that's really good for a quarterback. I think that's what separates the really good ones. That's why Spencer Rattler played the way he did, because he can get to 3 and 4 in a progression. And, so you need your pass protection to hold up like that as well. So obviously scheming to get number 1 open is always a goal, because then it's clean, it's smooth. It's the second, third, and 5 of the game. We got to make sure we run a hitch. We got to get our depth. It's 3rd and 5. We got to throw a 6-yard hitch route and have a first down because we have off access. And instead we're 4th and 1. And so those things come up and happen. It's details of route depths and protections and all those things that go into it. It's not just, if it was one thing, it'd be fixed. It's a multitude of things. And sometimes you have 3rd down conversions and we have 3 OPIs. It's all of a sudden, and 2 of them are the same exact, 2 different people, but it's the same exact thing. And it's a bunch of young guys out there. And we tell our guys all the time, keep making new mistakes. We can't have repeat mistakes. So it's all that stuff into one. It's not just, if it was as simple as, hey, this is what it is, we could fix it, we're going to slide protect more, we're going to create more separation for the wide receivers because we're going to stack and get them free access so they're not getting pressed, and that would be simple. But there's a million little things that go into making this thing right.
Listen, a lot of you will take that answer a lot of different ways. Those who are going to be most critical will say, I don't care, just find a way to make it work. Those who are going to be on the more understanding side of what is still a rather new-look offense will appreciate the fact that it's going to take some time. There are truths somewhere in the middle, I'm sure. Where exactly? 50-50? Probably not. I lean more towards the fact that Lenoris is still learning the position. Lenoris got hurt during the season. Lenoris missed time that was crucial to his development. I don't disagree, as I said, with the caller who said that you got to find ways to do what Lenoris does best. I believe they're attempting to do that. I don't think they're out there going, let's just call whatever. I don't believe that. I think we've seen enough from this head coach with 2 coordinators that he stresses the need to do what the players feel most confident in executing. But I will say something that I've said a few times this week to you, Elijah, and to the audience, obviously. But I think it illustrates the point. You can have the ghost of Bill Walsh calling plays, but if within 2 seconds the offensive line is just getting beat off the ball,
there's not much you can do.
What are you going to do? And then your quarterback, whether he is a runner like Lenoris or is more statuesque like Joe Montana or Dan Marino, Montana and Marino just go down. Lenoris is going to try to keep it alive. Look, it's oversimplification, I know, but I just there are, as Dowell mentioned in there's a lot of moving parts right now that are making this offense disjointed. But when it does work, and then you do something on your own, like the OPIs he was talking about, it's a killer. When you have a man downfield and he's not supposed to be there, it's a killer. You're executing a lot of these things, and you find a way to beat yourself. And when you're not, look, I don't know what the right answer is. That's why we keep kind of shrugging our shoulders this week. I don't really know what the right answer is.
Because there's been you've tried a lot of different things. Some triple option, RPO, you're a little below average in terms of like the RPO rate in your conference, but you're also well below average in terms of RPO success rate when you do run those type of things. And that's something in theory would be great for a quarterback like Lenoris, who has a really good skill set, who is a threat to tuck it and run. We saw what he did against LSU. We've seen what he can do. Even in the Old Dominion game, where he wasn't throwing the ball really well, he was picking up a ton of first downs on the ground. He was picking up some first downs against Ole Miss. He can pick up a lot of yards with his legs. So you'd think maybe doing RPO would be something that would fit him really well. But it hasn't all come together, too, and a lot of that is offensive line. There's so much trial and error, I think, that we've had with this offense so far, and there's not a ton of, consistency with the things that do work, right? There was, in Carolina calls last night, someone called and asked if Shane Beamer would do, or if I asked Shane if they would do more rollouts for Lenoris. And Shane's like, well, I don't know if you watched the Kentucky game, but our first touchdown was a Lenoris Sellers rollout. Mm-hmm. And he started mentioning that they do that sometimes, but it's not always like a guaranteed fix.
You keep doing it, and guess what? Yeah. The defense is going to go, hey, they're going to roll the quarterback out, and he's going to throw the ball.
Yeah, and then they're just going to shift the defense.
Yeah.
So it's not like a one size fits all thing. But my big thing this week, and if you can find something in this game, that'd be great. But you got to find something that's your easy button. It's 3rd down and 6. You need to pick up 6 yards in the easiest way possible to continue your chances of winning a football game. What do you go to? You have to have something.
I think that's become Josh Simon, right?
And part of me thinks it has. Part of me thinks that Josh Simon out in the flat has become your offensive easy button.
I think so.
And you're just going to have to go to that play more.
And yet the thing is, he only has 11 catches.
Yeah. I think he's been your most effective weapon in the pass game. He has 11 catches, like you said, in 5 games.
Yeah.
At some point, I think you just got to keep going to that and trying to hit as many layups as possible until they eventually lead to drives to get into the end zone.
I agree. Lots more to do here. Michael, thanks for the phone call. Appreciate that. That was a long answer from Dowell. And again, you guys are going to take it as you will when it comes to what it is that he's saying. But you can't just, as much as I like to say it, you can't just run the same 6 plays over and over. And you can't just have Lenoris roll out. We had a caller yesterday. If they just throw to the tight end, dude, I think we just tried to tell you that I think that's the best play.
That's the best play they got.
And they are doing it. But if it's blowing up, again, does it matter? I mean, there's just a lot of moving parts. There's a lot of moving parts that need to come together. Cohesion and confidence, cohesion and confidence, cohesion and confidence. My buzzwords of the season, and there is not a lot of cohesion at this point. And if there's no cohesion, there's not going to be any confidence. That's what they've got to keep building on. And all you have to do the rest of the month is go do it in Tuscaloosa, Alabama, and Norman, Oklahoma.
Places where historically you discover you really find yourself in those games.
That's where offenses go to shine.
Historically, yes.
So there's that, which is nice. Speaking of that, which is nice, we have a special guest in the studio. I tell you what.
Which is very nice.
Yeah, hold tight. Great friend of the show. Didn't even know he was going to be here. And now he is. Let's see what he has to say about the Gamecocks and more. We'll tell you who it is on the other side. You're listening to the Postgame Show. Let me tell you about our friends at the Joint Chiropractic Centers. You don't have to feel bad to feel better. That is the motto that Bob and Janet Keene have come up with because it's true. Hey, listen, just feeling a little off? Well, go in and see what they can do for you. Bothered by back, neck, shoulder, joint pain? Get back in the game with the Joint. You never need an appointment. You never have to worry about insurance. And you're in and out quickly, so you can do it on your lunch hour. You can do it during the day and be right back to work or get the kids, whatever it is that's going on. They're open Monday through Friday, 10 to 7. Saturdays even, 10 to 4. And if you're traveling to, go see your favorite team play out of town, or you're traveling for vacation or for work, there are Joint Chiropractic Centers all across the country. And if you're in their system, then anybody at any of those locations can help you out and make you feel better. Harbison, Forest Drive, Roberts Branch off Killian, Sunset Boulevard in Lexington. That's the 4 Midlands locations. And you can always learn more when you go online to thejoint.com.
From the WIS Traffic Studios, I'm Elijah Campbell. A few accidents to get to that are causing some issues here on the roadways. We'll start here in Richland County. We have an accident on Clemson Road near Sparkleberry Lane causing some slight delay. We got another one on I-20 eastbound before the Monticello Road exit 68, and on I-20 eastbound over the Lake Murray Boulevard exit 102. We also have an accident in Lexington County, it looks like, reported on I-20 eastbound approaching the Bush River Road exit 63.
Welcome back in. Football Friday rolling along on the game. Alongside Elijah Campbell, I'm Jay Phillips. And, hit that on now. There you go. It's our good friend Patrick Davis hanging out. I didn't even know you were here, man.
Hey, man, I had to go to the doctor.
Get a text and...
Get an MRI on my shoulder from playing too much guitar. So I check out guitars. I'm addicted to guitar, obviously.
Yeah.
I'm a
Yeah.
guitar strumming on. So I went to go check out any guitars, and I heard you, and I was like, hey, where are you at today? I'm going to come.
Yeah, I'm glad you did. Glad you did. How are things?
They're great.
Yeah?
Really good. I'm in town for a day. Leave tomorrow.
Do you stay anywhere more than like 3 days at a time, man?
So, I mean, we have a place in Camden now, so I get to come there when I can when I'm in South Carolina. But no, the answer is no. I leave to Atlanta tomorrow, and then I'm over in Nashville for one day, and then I got to fly to California for some stuff. But I mean, that's part of that's what you sign up for when you play music.
No, I get it.
It's kind of the dream, even though sometimes I feel like it's more of a nightmare, but it's kind of the dream.
Well, you're rolling along right now. You got the TV show going, so
It's been good. But
Yeah.
I'm stuck in like a layover in like I don't know, Des Moines, Iowa, or something. It's like, I don't think this was the dream. That's the part.
Hey, nightmares are dreams. It does. They are technically
I like about you.
the same way.
The
yeah,
intellect.
no,
They are.
it's a fact.
It is true.
Yeah, it's a
Saturday
fact.
could be a dream or a nightmare. We're not sure what's going to happen tomorrow.
Were you in Nashville last weekend when Vandy beat Bama?
No, unfortunately, I was not. I was actually I was in California again for something else, but man, I was getting blown up by
Yeah.
people that have bars, friends of mine,
Yeah.
on Broadway, and they're like, "Can you believe this?" And their kids are walking down Broadway
Well-
with the entire goalpost.
Yeah.
It was great. I mean, it was a beautiful. I mean, I can't. What terrible timing last week or 2 weeks ago for Ole Miss to
Right,
lose, and then for
right.
Alabama to lose. When I saw that, I was like, "You have to be." That is just good for Vandy, but.
Well, I mean, because as you know, Elijah worked in Nashville for years before he moved here to Columbia to work with us. So you guys both know the area very, very well. From your perspective, has it anything like that, even if you weren't there, and Elijah wasn't either, but he always said, like, how far did they go? What is it all about? I mean, kind of take people through what these kids were doing.
Columbia, South Carolina, to give you an idea of taking it from the Vandy Stadium, it'd be like, I mean, it's the busiest, especially on a Saturday night. That's Broadway. I mean, that West End and Broadway it's about 2.5 miles to get down to the actual, where the stadium is
Right.
to the river, Broadway. And, I mean, that'd be like going down, I don't know, it'd be going like I-20. It's crazy.
Well, I was figuring like maybe like Assembly Street during rush hour or something, or Rose, or
Going from like all the way at the end of Assembly down where the McDonald's is
Yeah.
here and going all the way to Williams-Brice.
Right.
I mean, that's what it would be like.
Right.
I mean,
Or taking it to the river here, like.
it's crazy. I mean, like when I saw that, I remember, Gamecocks will remember this. I was just out of school, but I remember we beat Georgia. And there's a piece of that goalpost that's still at Bar None.
Right.
And I
2000,
remember
yes.
They took that. Everybody took that downtown because it was such a big. I think they were number 9 or something. 6,
Yeah, well, and
like
Quincy Carter was a Heisman candidate, 5 picks that
Hey,
day.
everybody out there that is a Gamecock fan remembers us smiling right now. That was an amazing day. But I remember that and being so proud, being a kid. I think maybe I might have been a senior, but I remember being like, wow, yeah, like it just, you had done something that was going to live forever.
Right.
And those kids that carried that down and beat Alabama,
Yeah.
I mean, the idea that Vandy beat Alabama is still, it's not even possible.
All right, I'm serious. I say this with a smile on my face, so a little tongue-in-cheek, but not really. How many people do you think have already written a song about Vandy beating Bama last Saturday?
Well, now that TikTok exists, there's probably thousands of them. But I don't. The sad thing is that the only people that really care about Vanderbilt football are the people that grew up in Nashville.
Right.
Like most everybody there is a Tennessee fan.
Sure.
And so.
It's kind of the same thing with Duke. I tell people that about Duke. Like you think like there's tons of Duke, like not really. Like in the triangle, in the triangle, there are Chapel Hill fans and there are State fans, and yes, there are some Duke people, but they are vastly outnumbered.
No, nobody really. I bet you there were people in Nashville didn't know there was a game going on. I mean, we've all been. If you've been fortunate enough to go to a Vandy game, it's like a home game. It's what
That's what Saban said.
When we go there in 3 weeks or a month,
Yeah.
a lot of us will be up there, and I'll be home, and it'll be a blast because it's literally 90% South Carolina. Even with this victory for them, it'll still be 90% South Carolina fans in that stadium.
Well, because they bought the tickets already, but
5% of the crowds is what stormed the field. I mean, it was. I mean, when you go back and watch the copy of the game, and the Vanderbilt students are storming the field, it takes them a little bit because they all have to recongregate at the bottom because they're not all sitting together in a large section, right? Like it took a little bit.
It's a very interesting stadium, but I actually large high school stadium.
Yeah.
I mean, it's only 25, 30,000 people. It's right.
They're fixing it up, though.
It'll be nice once it's finished.
Yeah. I mean, they're throwing some money at it. I mean, and heck, I mean, I don't know. This quarterback seems to be like on another planet right now.
Well, he might have some songs written about him, man.
I tell you what, man, I still can't get over the fact we're sitting here. I'm glad to see you.
Yeah.
I'm glad I stopped by, but I can't believe we're talking about Vanderbilt beating Alabama.
It's insane, but also the name Diego Pavia. It's very musical. It's very lyrical. There's something you can do with Diego Pavia. There's ways.
Like I don't know, Will Ferrell movie or something.
Yeah.
You know, it's like so actually, I watched Hateful Eight last night, so it sounds like
Oh, yes.
Hateful Eight. You'd be one of the guys off of the.
I don't know. I could feel like Marty Robbins might have written this song about a guy named Diego Pavia from New Mexico.
Someone should do a version of El Paso.
Yeah.
Him the lead character.
Well, that's your realm, man. So we'll let you do that. But it is, as you said, it's just kind of interesting that Bama loses right after Ole Miss does. On that note, cut number 1 from today's list, please, Elijah. A quick one here from Shane, who was asked if it was a bad thing that Alabama is coming off a loss.
I don't know if it matters, to be honest with you. I think for us, it's what we have to do for us to go play well, and we knew we had a big challenge in front of us, whether Ole Miss had won or lost the week before, whether Alabama had won or lost the week before. I think, it's really about which team prepares the best way to play. I hear people say, well, Alabama's going to be mad and upset because of the way they played against Vanderbilt. Well, we better be upset about the way we played against Ole Miss. And I would be disappointed if we didn't come out there and play with an edge on Saturday, like I'm sure Alabama will also.
I think that actually is the right way to approach it, Patrick, is that Carolina needs to come out with some kind of chip on the shoulder. They're not Alabama. They're not going to be Alabama anytime soon. But if you, at 11 o'clock Central Time, can find a way to get in there quick and just catch Alabama, not necessarily napping, but just a little whatever, you got to find whatever edge you can find.
Yeah, that's actually, I was pleasantly surprised by that answer. That's a good answer to that because it's true. I mean, we are not Alabama, so we weren't expecting to beat, Ole Miss by 40 points like they were. But still, you would hope that just the competitor inside of each one of the players would translate into them being like, we got to come out here and actually prove something. It was going to be a tough. It wouldn't have mattered if Alabama would have beat Vandy by 60 points. It was still going to be quite a.
Well, and one of the things Elijah and I have said too is that if you only want to look at the record and what Carolina's done, 3-2 after 5 kind of feels about right for this team. Now that you saw what they did against Kentucky and how they played and lost to LSU, it makes how you played and lost to Ole Miss hurt that much more. And, I've spent a lot of time this week on the failed fake punt just being just such a bad omen for that just, again, it stayed over the game the rest of the time. One more real quick here. Number 11, please, Elijah. Staying with that Vandy thought. Shane was asked last night if you can do some of what Vandy did to beat Alabama.
Vanderbilt, a ton of respect for them. They played great. Great. Just offensively, defensively, special teams. They did everything a team needs to do to be able to pull an upset, meaning they stayed on the field third down. I think they had 42 minutes time of possession. Crushed them. They scored on defense. They had an interception return for a touchdown. So a lot of plays like that you need to make those plays in order to win. And then, the style of offense that Vanderbilt's running this year, it's very much, it looks a lot like us in a lot of ways, but very triple optionist-ish. And they did a good job of just staying on the field. And then Vanderbilt's defense against a really good Alabama offense. The Alabama offense didn't have a lot of opportunities. I think they only played close to 50 plays because Vanderbilt kept the ball for so long. But when they did have the ball, I thought Vanderbilt did a nice job of tackling. And that'll be key that when Milroe does get out of there, or nobody's talking about Alabama's running backs. They got 2 really good running backs. And when they do get out of the pocket or get out of the backfield, we've got to do a great job of tackling, and that's what Vanderbilt did.
42-plus minutes of possession, 12 of 18 on third down?
12 of 18, and that's just like converted third downs. Alabama did commit about 3 penalties to extend some of those drives as well. Vandy only punted twice.
Really fortunate to beat a team like Alabama.
Yeah.
That's what those types of stats are like. They could play 100 more times in Alabama when
Probably with most of them. Absolutely.
1%.
Yeah. but
1% is what Bill Connolly said. If you play any game with that statistical discrepancy from one team to another on a per play basis, only 1% does chances Vanderbilt have of winning that game.
Yeah.
1%.
Well, Patrick's here, Nashville-based. Elijah's had his time in Nashville, and the SEC and Big Ten were in Nashville yesterday. Let's see what Patrick thinks of what they talked about. PD hanging out with us here on a Football Friday. Be right back. Not feeling like yourself, guys, as you get a little bit older. You wonder why. You say, well, it'll probably be all right. I'll just shake it off and wait for it to go away. Don't do that. See Dan Balknight instead and his team at the men's clinic. Get to feeling better when you see Dan, because they'll sit down and talk with you about the issues where you're just feeling off. Where are those gaps? Is it brain fog, right? You just, you're working out, or you're doing yard work, exercising, hanging out with the kids, and you don't feel like you used to. They'll figure all those things out, then put together a plan that is just right for you. There is no such thing as a one-size-fits-all treatment. These are not magic pills that you see on television. These are doctors and nurses that are experts in healthcare for men. They've been doing it for years. They have great results, and they're dedicated to making you feel like yourself again. 803-875-MENS. Call the Men's Clinic today. Welcome back into the postgame show. Jay and Elijah with you. Patrick Davis hanging out. Surprise drop-in guest here inside the Herndon Chevy Studios. Coming up in the 5 o'clock hour, a lot more from Shane getting you ready for tomorrow's game. And at 5:30, we will be playing this week's edition of the Wild Card Showdown. Got a good week of football this week. Last week was okay. This week is juicy.
The slate last week going into it wasn't blockbuster material. It just turned out to be that way.
Yeah, it became quite dramatic, but we did not anticipate that.
Did any of you guys watch that Miami?
I only saw highlights.
I fell asleep when
I still
Miami was
can't
down
believe
14.
Still can't believe they were down 25.
I was in Napa for an event, and I guess it was a late night game out here, but it was on pretty normal hours out there. I mean, maybe 11 o'clock or something.
What's normal in California?
Well,
Yeah, don't answer that.
Everybody goes to bed at like 8 but I was up watching football, catching up with it, and I'm wondering if any of you guys got phone calls about like the conspiracy with Miami, because there is no way there was a targeting foul that they had not called.
That was weird.
Like it was egregious. You knew it was like he launched at the guy, and if they get that call, they run the clock out. And that's 2 weeks in a row that's happened for Miami. I was just like, you believe in these conspiracy theories in college football? That would kind of.
You know, I'd really like to make a conspiracy joke about hurricanes right now,
Oh, God.
but I'm not going to do that.
It would be too easy. But no, it was,
That's a layup.
but it was a great game. They were down when I turned it on. They were down by 25, and they came back.
I have seen the picture many times of Michael Irvin on the sideline on all fours, looking like he's barking at the field. He was.
The weirdest part wasn't him doing that. It was the fact that they kept showing.
Yeah, we talked about Alabama maybe one day exploring the option of having a live elephant as a live mascot on the sidelines. Miami doesn't need that. They just have Michael Irvin.
Well, for now, they're getting it done, and they don't have to play Clemson in the regular season, correct? So
I have a good feeling they'll be seeing each other in Charlotte in December.
Yeah. Yesterday, the Big Ten and SEC athletic directors and commissioners all met for what many have called unprecedented meetings. This was in downtown Nashville at the Grand Hyatt, where we had media days a couple of summers ago. Very nice establishment down there in the Music City. But nothing official came of this in terms of any decisions. But what they talked about more than anything was what the future of the college football playoff could look like. Both commissioners, Greg Sankey, Tony Petitti, saying we're going to watch this one play out, and then we're going to talk about what we like and what we don't. But we're basically going to take control of this thing either way when the new format comes around in 2026. In so many words, Greg Sankey says, we need to make certain that we have the voice at the end of these discussions. So they know they're in control. And really, some of this has already kind of been signed off on by other conferences, too, in terms of distribution of revenue and things like that. They also talked about playing one another in non-conference games. Greg Sankey, and I threw this quote out a little bit earlier. Greg Sankey made a visit to Ann Arbor earlier this season, and he said he was in Ann Arbor for the first time. He said it was just an incredible experience, and you stand on the sideline prior to kickoff thinking, what if we can do this more with our non-conference games? We respect where we have in-state rivalries that take place in non-conference scheduling, but we had a real general conversation about the what-ifs in football and basketball. They also made mention of the fact that the board of directors, the very top leadership level of the NCAA, must change. And the reading between the lines there, Patrick and I were just talking off air, Elijah, you know this, and it's not a slam on anybody. It's just a fact. It is made up primarily, like of a majority, of what you would call mid-major to small schools. And there's nothing wrong with any of that in terms of what they want to do, except that their needs and resources do not align with the biggest schools in the country, and yet they have a majority voice. And Greg has made mention, as has Mr. Petitti, we can't have that anymore. We heard a quote earlier in the year, like, you can't have Western Michigan telling Michigan what to do. And you can't have Florida International telling Florida what to do. Things like that. So that's where they came up with it. Nothing happened, but I'd love to see more of those kinds of games and on campus, not so much in the neutral sites.
Yeah, I mean, I watched a little bit of that Michigan-Texas game, and one of my best buddies is a crazy Texas, supporter from Austin. And
what are the sane ones like?
yeah, exactly. Enough certain number of years or maybe ever. And it would be a lot of fun to see those. It would be wonderful to see Ohio State and Alabama playing in Tuscaloosa like during the season.
Well, I mean, when Oregon went to Ohio State a couple of years ago as a non-con game, it was maybe the best game of the year. Seriously. Yeah. Well, and I don't know how you line it up. If you do it by standings, Elijah and I talked yesterday. Could you hold the weekend open and just, maybe by April you figure out who plays whom? I don't care, but I'd like to see more of it. That's for sure.
It's kind of like baseball when interleague started.
Yeah.
I mean, it's going to drive people to the game.
And more butts in the seats and more eyeballs on the screen. You gonna hang around for a little bit? All right, Patrick will hang around. Hour 3, more from Shane, and again the wild card showdown coming up. Love telling you about our good friends at Cato's Power Equipment. Ben and the crew ready to help you out as the fall hits us now. Still got to keep the grass cut short because, it grows a lot here in South Carolina. Also need to use a lot of that same power equipment to get the leaves and straw off the yard. Listen, you got attachments now, big bags that you can put onto your lawnmower, bag all those things up, use it as mulch, just put it in the yard pile, whatever it is that you feel like doing, plus backpack blowers, all the way down to battery-powered blowers and other equipment that use the same rechargeable batteries. A lot more power in them, both in the battery and in their ability to help you out all across the yard. And if you are in the business of landscaping, now is a great time to get into the service department at Cato's. Make sure that everything you need to keep your customers happy is running smoothly. That gets you on to the next job that much quicker. Whether you cut your own backyard, you do it for a living, see Cato's for excellent sales, service, and advice. Historically located at 4012 West Beltline Boulevard, family-owned since 1983. Online at catospowerequipment.com. Go see Ben and the crew at Cato's.
From the WIS Traffic Studios, I'm Elijah Campbell. A few accidents to get to. They're causing some issues on the roadways, and we'll start in Richland County. Got an accident on US 176 at Broad River Road at St. Andrews Road. Got another one on I-26 eastbound at Lake Murray Boulevard or near exit 102. One on 20 eastbound before Monticello Road, exit 68. Another one on Highway 60 at US 176 at Broad River Road. One on Farrow Road at Highway 555 at Hard Scrabble Road. One still on Clemson Road at Rame Road, North Springs, as well as one near South Carolina 555 in Farrow Road. Lastly, we have one accident in Lexington County to announce here, and that is going to be on I-26 eastbound over at St. Andrews Road near exit 106.
yards in his throws. We've got to affect Milroe. We have to finish drives offensively. That means third down. That means red zone. And then we've got to get away from playing losing football. We can't get out there. They're good enough. We don't need to help them with the way that we play.
Shane Beamer's keys to the game from last night's Carolina Calls. Welcome back in. Final hour of the postgame show on this Football Friday alongside Elijah Campbell. I'm Jay Phillips. Very special guest, our buddy Patrick Davis, hanging out with us. You're like a former Gamecock.
Yeah, that's why I had to get this MRI today because that's why I'm not playing this weekend. I can't throw the ball.
See, you were saying that it was guitar strumming. In my head, I'm like, sure, he's because he was dropping dimes over the weekend.
I am with the team that works on all the guys here, so
Yeah, that's good. No, that does matter. But I didn't even know you were here. And you get a text during the first hour. It's like
I heard you on the radio, and I said,
shopping for guitars.
Come swing by and, see what, I didn't know you were going to be here by yourself. I mean, Elijah's in there.
Yeah.
You guys are by yourself.
Yeah. There's no brewery today. Yeah, so we're
That's actually what I was thinking. I was hoping you were at the brewery. I was going to just come grab a beer. Give me an excuse to grab a beer. But
nobody needs an excuse to grab a beer.
There's just liquor all around here.
Sure. Well, we keep it. We have on Fridays. We just open up the cabinet for the secret stash.
Yeah, I see you found my desk.
But you weren't supposed to tell anybody about that, Patrick. Yeah.
After last week's game, we needed that.
Last week was not fun. We'll play the Wild Card Showdown coming up for you in just a little bit, and we will have a quick drive around the SEC. There's some good ones. It's a good weekend. It's a good weekend of football. So we'll touch on all those things. But let's get into a little bit more from what Shane Beamer had to say because, listen, this one – it's always a fantastic opportunity. There's no other way to put it. We talked a lot about it. There's 80 to 100 kids that play for Bama. Next week, there's 80 to 100 kids that play for Oklahoma. There are thousands of kids across the country that do not, and they love the opportunity that these games present. Rarely do you get the positive outcome because that's what Alabama and Oklahoma and schools like that are all about. But, hey, you get the opportunity. But first, let's get into number 5 here from today's cut list, please. Shane and the team know what last week was all about and what went wrong and how it was self-inflicted early. Shane kind of going back over the week that was from a self-critical standpoint.
Thank you for saying that. I appreciate you saying that. I would say for you guys to continue to do what you're doing, and I'll be honest, the thing that disappoints, or there's a lot of things that disappoint me when we don't play well, and it's letting the fans down because of what kind of environment that was in Williams-Brice Stadium on Saturday, and it was the same thing for LSU, and I hurt for our players because as the leader, I'm responsible for all of it, and I hurt for our players because they put so much work in. I hurt for our coaches and staff, but I hurt for our fans because that stadium on Saturdays, there's nothing like it, and it's every single Saturday, and you guys put so much into it, and when we're not successful as a team, I certainly take that personal and hurt for our fans that we don't come out victorious, and so I appreciate you, saying that, and that's just that's life in the SEC. It's a new week, and it's just tough when you put so much into something and it doesn't go the way that you want it to go. And particularly when I'm not going to say that I thought we were going to win going away. I was extremely confident going into that football
game. That was a great week of practice.
It was.
We all commented on
Unbelievable week of practice. Our guys were so focused and locked in, and I was worried and maybe in some ways that we wanted too much, and then we get out there and we start not doing things that we need to do, and you saw a little bit of that, and I've got to do a better job of that certainly, but I'm always going to be critical of myself just because I want success so much for the greatest fans in the entire world, and then our players, coaches, and staff. So you guys keep doing what you're doing. We'll be all right.
And that's Coach Beamer. Yeah, again, just early, just kind of took the wind out of the sails, never found a way to get it back. So you got to find ways now at Bryant-Denny Stadium to get it done. Let's go to cut 10, please, Elijah. Last week, again, you can almost take last week out if you want to. I know nobody wants to remember it, and it did happen. But you've also seen this offense have some big plays against Kentucky, some really explosive plays against LSU as well. Can you get more of that done? What are you doing to make sure you can do that? Here's what Shane said.
Key, because in today's college football, it's hard to just drive the ball down the field and methodically and score touchdowns. Defenses are just too good. Like, you've got to be able to hit explosives, and that's personnel, that's scheme, that's coaching, that's everything. We need to hit more. There's no doubt about it. Our record, we keep track of it, explosive plays, runs, and passes, and one of the keys of victory for us every single Saturday is to win the explosive play battle and have more than the opponent. And when we have, we're dang near unbeatable when we have more explosives. And I would say that most teams in college football, that would be the same for them as well. So we've got to be better. We can't give them up. And then offensively, we've got to be able to continue to, we call them, there's no question about it, and we've hit more in the run game than we have in years past, but we've got to be able to throw the ball down the field and create more explosives in the passing game than what we're doing. And it's a combination of everything: protection, throws, decisions, calls, catches, you name it.
One of the things we've been talking about this week, Patrick, Elijah, and I have especially, is where you can find those places in the offense to try and get better. Ryan Brewer was sitting right where you were sitting on Tuesday, and we all just kind of shrugged our shoulders right now. And at some point, we had a caller earlier even, do you just get creative? What do you do to just take that chance? And one of the things that I know, Elijah, you and I have agreed on, was there a lack of confidence in Dowell Loggins calling those things? Are you just worried about who separates from whom at the receiver position? But you heard me saying earlier, cohesion and confidence both seem lacking right now, and it gets to be problematic.
Yeah, as just a casual fan trying to cheer them on from wherever I am in the world, it definitely looked like they don't have much of an identification.
No.
Like when it comes to they don't have an identity when it comes to their offense, and I think a lot of that is because they don't have a bona fide star. And I think we probably don't know if Sellers was hurt. I know he came back from an injury, but honestly, if you look at it from the second half of the LSU game through at Ole Miss, pretty bad 6 quarters.
Yes.
So I think that you gotta assume that they've got a lot of learning. Hopefully, that's happened over.
I mean, the Akron game in between, Robbie was fine, but it's Akron, and you didn't have Lenoris out there getting better. And that's been one of the hard parts about it.
Well, that was my biggest concern going into the Akron game. It's like, yes, you want to give someone like Lenoris, who for his position plays really physical because he takes off and runs a lot, right? And sometimes for a lot of quarterbacks, it takes 2 or 3 years as a starter to learn how to avoid the punishment on your body. I mean, it took Lamar Jackson a year in the NFL before he realized the out of bounds, the boundaries there are your friend. Yeah, that is your saving grace, brother. But even in a game like that, my biggest fear was, even if there is a risk of re-injury, he already had a good rhythm going in that first half of the LSU game, which was really the best we have seen of him, the best we have seen of this offense. And then he doesn't really play the second half. It doesn't look really good. Your inability to stay on the field cost you that game. But could you at least continue that momentum with him a little bit in a game against Akron? Say he does what Robbie Ashford does, and you have that continuity. And maybe you don't look as rusty when you go out for the first couple drives of the Ole Miss game. The first couple drives of the Ole Miss game are different, then we're probably having a significantly different discussion right now than we already have been.
I think Shane probably had a lot of confidence. He was probably pumped up. Making that fake, punt. Things happen, but that was definitely that would probably not have been so bad if we hadn't fumbled the next time we had the ball. It just was a really bad situation 5 minutes into the game.
Yeah.
Down by 14 points, all the air in the stadium. I could see it. I was watching it, like I said, in California. I could see it. I was just like, oh, man.
It was gone.
No, it was palpable.
It was gone.
And but I don't necessarily know if, like you said, like Lamar Jackson's a good example. I think, just as a fan, I feel like you're playing the SEC. It might take this kid another year to get to where he's seeing it at the speed that you hope he's seeing, where it slows down. Right now, that's what Alabama, that's what I'll be worried about. We need to really come out and just, the hope for us as fans is just that we can hang around. Because if you can hang around, you just never know what's going to happen.
Well, then you get the other guy to start thinking. In that answer that Shane had about explosives, Elijah, you got to try it. Well, is that we've talked a lot. Again, 2 years ago, Shane going to his offensive coordinator. Hey, need you to mix it up, and here's what I want you to do. Last year, did it with Clayton White. Need you to change some things on defense. It worked both times. It worked. Does he now just go to Dowell and say, screw it? I just every so often I need you to take the shot.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's what the conversations are like, but I don't disagree with him. And I hesitate to say it this way, but quite honestly, what have you got to lose tomorrow? You're already a heavy underdog. There are very few people who believe you're going to win anyway. I'm not saying that you try to turn it into something that you simply cannot do.
Yeah.
But how do you push that boundary tomorrow? I think you probably let it all hang out.
It's weird. I don't want to use the word like experiment in this game because when you go at Alabama, who's a top 10 team in early October, usually not the time to experiment stuff, right? That's usually in August and preseason practices. Usually that's the time reserved for experimenting with your offense a little bit, or in a game like Akron or Old Dominion. Usually that's the space for that. But at some point, you're going to have to try something that Alabama hasn't seen on film, and that you have at least repped well enough to try to play to extend the field a little bit. Because, look, one of the worst stats of the game, there were a lot of bad stats offensively from Saturday, but you attempted one pass that traveled more than 19 yards down the field. Didn't complete one pass that traveled down the field 19 yards. Attempted just one. Your average depth of target on all pass attempts was 5 yards. For Ole Miss, it was 14. Like, it's one of those things where, you watch other offenses in the SEC, they have an ability to stretch the field, and that makes their run game help so much more. Why is Tennessee such a good running team? Because at every given time, they're a threat to stretch you down the field 35 yards because of just how they play. That's what makes their run game so good, is because you do have to use your safeties, play deep. You do have to have corners account for every single receiver that's on the field, and then the numbers work in your favor in terms of just blockers and defenders. Right now, teams aren't respecting you in terms of your deep game. They're really not. They're daring you to just go underneath. At some point, you got to punch somebody in the mouth and say, "We can do this. You better guard us a certain way, or we can bust you over the top." But until then, you're really kind of handcuffed with what you can do offensively and the amount of creativity you can have. So at least trying it is something that you're now really just forced to do. I don't think it's really much of a suggestion anymore. I agree. This is the hand you're dealt.
I think you roll the dice. I mean, again, what have you got to lose?
You could see that the defense on television last week, like they just creep up because they're not afraid of anything behind them, and so that's I also think there's got to be a level of I grew up with Sean Elliott, so
right.
I think Sean is a great motivator of his team, and I do hope that they watch that tape, and I think that we all probably hope just that they got it. They have to be a little angry about what has just transpired last week, and maybe, and I'm sure that that's something that they're really trying to do is motivate these guys, but you're better than this. You've got to be better than this. And it's just holding each other accountable, because that was another thing I think that was probably a little disheartening, was how many mistakes were made, whether it be jumping off sides on defense or whether it be, penalties on offense. It was just, that was really, really hard to take, because on top of everything else going against you, you can't have self-inflicted injuries, and that's basically what's kept happening. Speaking of injuries, how about the Ole Miss guys falling down?
Yeah, oh man,
Thoughts and prayers.
I mean, Shane's answer in postgame was the best, because I think he said it about 5 or 6 times. I hope those guys are okay. I hope those guys are okay. Yeah. Well, maybe we just need Sean to draw a little blood in the pregame motivational speeches.
Nothing a helmet headbutt can't fix.
I used to do that in high school. I mean, he was older than I was, but we all looked up to Sean because he was the guy that would run through a wall, literally run through a wall. Yeah, we were all kids.
He's not like Uncle Rico saying, "How about you want to bet I can run through that wall?" I know it's a different analogy, but
there ain't no betting. There's doing.
Yeah, Sean will just do it. Patrick's going to hang around with us. More from Shane Beamer, 803-404-6100. Your thoughts on this one. And again, coming up in about 15, 20 minutes, we'll be having 2 of you on board for this week's edition of the Wild Card Showdown. Football Friday on the Postgame Show.
Holidays are coming up real soon. Here in just a month and a half, Thanksgiving, and then 2.5 months after that, or a month and a half after that, Christmas, it's flying by. The year is flying by. And if you have a weight loss goal to reach by Thanksgiving, Christmas, New Year's, whatever it may be, and the time is starting to get a little short, Columbia Secret for Weight Loss could be the program for you because of its efficiency. And I could be a perfect testament to that as somebody who reached my weight loss goal in a month's time with Columbia Secret for Weight Loss. Paul, Grant, and Shaylin are great at not wasting your time and getting you to achieve your goals when you want to achieve your goals, doing with all of this without any pills, without any shots, just learning the secret of losing to a pound of unhealthy fat per day and starting your own success story like myself. If that interests you, give them a call for your free consultation, 803-824-4210. Again, that's 803-824-4210, or go to ColumbiaSecretForWeightLoss.com. Results may vary.
The other day, I think, where it's like third and whatever, and it's going to be fourth and very manageable, but then we have a penalty on third down that now we're in a third and extra long situation, which makes it tough to convert and tough to get back in fourth and manageable. So we got to quit stubbing our toe in our own way and be more efficient in a lot of different areas.
Shane Beamer last night on the self-inflicted stuff, especially on third down. Again, that was a pass play to Josh Simon that went for a first down, but Nick Harbor called for an offensive pass interference and, yes, turned 1st and 10 into 3rd and 20, and then you ended up punting on 4th and, I want to say it was 4th and 11, if I remember looking back at the play chart that way. But
that was before or after the Jared Brown trip up? I don't think that was the trip up, right?
No.
No.
I don't think that was the same. No, he could be referencing something. I know the play where Nick had the OPI. That was a first down completion to Simon. There's been a few of those. I mean, between those and the man downfield, which again, man downfield has erased 2 touchdowns for this team this season, including a special teams score against ODU. The OPIs. Right. Now there's so many self-inflicted ones that just have got to stop happening.
Well, this is the weekend, folks. Everybody driving home from work right now, you put out them positive vibes.
Yeah. Well,
It's going to shock the world tomorrow.
you know, our good friend Michael Haney always says, though, at this point of the season, you are who you are, and that's what worries me. I don't know. You have one more bye week, but like we joked earlier, you know, oh, hey, after your worst performance of the season by far, all you have to worry about to get better is to go to Tuscaloosa and Norman in back-to-back weeks.
Those are tune-up games for Vandy, actually.
Right.
That game's going to be fun.
Yeah, there you go.
We're going to beat Vandy by 50.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, it's crazy. You know, Vandy is now, they're a 14-point dog tomorrow in Lexington. And I nothing against Vandy. I expect Kentucky to win the game.
Yes.
Yeah, I do.
Awesome for Vandy to all of a sudden be really good. Lose to us still, but win.
Yes.
If they, well, listen.
10-2 college football playoff.
Elijah and I said earlier in the week, you need to take Vandy more seriously. Vandy has beaten Virginia Tech, not VMI. They have beaten Alabama, not Alabama A&M. They went to double overtime at top 10 Missouri. Well, used to be top 10. At the time, top 10 Missouri. They are. That's another thing we were joking about. You see that, those crazy college kids. I was like, that crazy college kid carrying part of that goalpost is your future cardiologist. So
They're going to save your life one day.
don't forget that, And if not, he'll be the lawyer that helps you do whatever you need to do. So there's that. So they do have that going for them. But no, I know 2 guys who have become quite successful cardiologists who. It's a real deal. There's no question. Let's get on the phones. You were talking more football. Greg wants to talk to us. Hey, Greg.
Hey, I just got a couple questions.
All right.
Number one, the offense, in my opinion, the offensive line struggles have been going on for 4 years. They haven't gotten any better. But instead of dropping straight back, have we ever thought about maybe moving the pocket, roll the pocket a little bit?
Yeah.
And number two, well, that gives them Lenore's a pass option opportunity. Number two, we got the fastest man on the field. I understand Nick Harbor might not have the receiving skills yet, but he's the fastest man on the field. Send him deep. Heck, he's going to take somebody with him.
Right.
If he don't, you can hit him wide open.
Yeah, I think I'll tell you what, we have a cut from Shane that we'll get to on that. Listen, Harbor, I agree. Thanks for the phone call, Greg. Appreciate you. Listen, Nick Harbor, yes, he is still learning the position. As we've talked about, those deep balls, when you send that go route or that long post route, he's got to turn over and look, and there's going to be somebody in his face, and these are things that he still has to learn. In terms of the rollouts, yes, that has come up. So let's go to cut 6, Elijah. This is Shane last night, because I think that's been a refrain from fans is, are we doing more to get him in those situations? Here's what Shane had to say.
Did you watch? I don't know if you watched the LSU game, TJ. The first play of the LSU game was that. He pulled the ball. He was on the move. He could run or throw, and he threw it to Josh Simon, I believe. I don't know, TJ, if you watched the Kentucky game. The first touchdown pass to Mazio Bennett was he rolled out of the pocket on the move and threw the ball to Mazio Bennett. There's a lot of them.
It was 3 plays last week,
Yes.
against Ole Miss. We're a heavy RPO team. I guess people don't realize that.
No, we are. In fact, and TJ, you're exactly right. I mean, he's a weapon, and when we get him out on the perimeter, but we've done that. I mean, a lot of our bigger plays offensively have come on plays down the field where our quarterbacks are on the move because they're both athletic guys, but there's no question about it. There's a lot of them are RPOs. I was going back through today before I left the office and was going through all of our explosive passes from this season, and we consider an explosive pass any pass 18 yards or more down the field. And I wish we had more that were just true like drop back passes, but there's not many on there at all. A lot of them are those plays where we get the ball out, but our RPO type plays or rollouts, boots, whatnot. So we've got to continue to. He's a weapon, but we've also got to get a lot better in the pocket as well as in our drop back passing game.
So, Greg, again, I think you raise a good question. It's clearly one, again, somebody asked last night. There are already several plays where, as Shane mentioned, where they are doing that. You can't do it route two. I think we had somebody else earlier talking about that, Elijah, and you can't. I guess when we were talking to Langston, you can't always just roll him out, because then the defense goes, hey, listen, all they can do is throw a pass when they roll him out. So, as you mentioned, we'll just shift the defense over there. Mm-hmm. They're still not going to run.
And if you can't run the ball at all, say you start doing that and you're only picking up like 2 yards a carry, those middle linebackers aren't going to be biting too hard on your play fakes.
No.
Most rollouts are bootlegs coming off of play action. And the key to those working is that middle linebacker seeing you pretend to tuck the ball into the belly of the running back and taking 2 steps up when you're not supposed to be taking 2 steps up in the middle of the field being open. If you're not running the ball, you're not at least
nobody's biting on it if you can't run. You're not fooling anybody. And this is the SEC. Coordinators and those players would be like, okay.
And Cade Womack's pretty good.
Yeah.
He has been doing this for a while.
He has. So I hope that answers the question, Greg. And I'm not taking shots. Shane's not taking. I think they are trying to do a lot of that. But again, a lot of these plays are just blowing up. They're not doing it. Listen, we mentioned it before. I don't know if you heard this, PD. They've completed 71 passes this year, have the Gamecocks. That's 14 a game. That's not. Yeah, your top two your pass catchers are Mazio Bennett with 14 and Josh Simon with 11.
Neither are grabbing more than 3 passes a game.
I mean, you're just not. No. Yeah, and so again, opposing defenses know this. That's why I say tomorrow, what have you got to lose? And I think maybe that's one of Shane's points. Just let's.
I do think we have a quarterback that I think we kind of, as Gamecock fans, we always see the glass half full. Very like wait till next year.
Well, then we go to halftime and drink that glass.
But the idea is, I think that we've all
then it's fully empty.
We've decided that he is going to be, a wonderful quarterback.
Yes.
And I think he may still be a wonderful quarterback. I think it's just going to take a little longer than we're hoping. And I think maybe we got a little false hope. And I don't mean that we're not going to end up okay with the season. I just mean that those first few games, there was a good chance we were 4-0. And I think that we were all like, we're world beaters. And there's articles about us making college football.
Oh, if he, yeah.
So there's a lot of stuff like that I think is happening. And I think Sellers actually, he looks like he has all the tools. I mean, like the kid looks, everything about him, I'm like, oh man, he's big, strong, fast. But it might take a little while. And it probably will pay. We'll probably be having this, in 26, we'll be having this Heisman Trophy conversation about Sellers because he had to go to Alabama, he had to go to Norman, he had to do those things. It's part of the bump to me. Like, Connor Shaw didn't start out being Connor when he was a sophomore.
Well, just wait till Bama and Oklahoma come here next season. Then you've got yourself a story. 803-404-6100. It's time to bring 2 of you on board for this week's edition of the Wild Card Showdown. We got some really good games in college and a couple of big ones at the pro level as well. Find a way to beat us, and we will hook you up with one of our craft beer passports. I got to tell you, Elijah's on fire. 9-1 the last 2 weeks. So he's going to be the tough one to beat. Yours truly, not so much. 2 of you, 803-404-6100. The Wild Card Showdown is next. Love telling you about our friends at Palmetto Citizens Federal Credit Union. We're into the middle of fall right now, holiday season coming up. We're also in the middle of tailgate season and hunting season, and maybe you need a vehicle to make sure that those things can get done even better. Not taking the regular vehicle out for the tailgate or down on the farm. No better place than Palmetto Citizens to finance your next vehicle. They offer the same low rates on all new to 21 models. They've got great options for older vehicles, too, and many plans come with no payments for up to 90 days. Plus, on those newer vehicles, they can finance over 100% of the retail or purchase price. And Palmetto Citizens can offer you additional coverage and insurance options dealerships cannot beat. So, go shop for that next vehicle. Then, get in touch with the folks at Palmetto Citizens and find out how much you can save. My wife and I are members. We love what they've done for us. We think you will too. Check them out right now online at palmettocitizens.org.
From the WIS Traffic Studios, I'm Elijah Campbell. The few accidents to get to, they're causing some issues on the roadways, and we'll start with an accident that's got the two left lanes blocked completely on 20 westbound just after the Monticello Road exit 68. Still have accidents on Clemson Road at Rame Road, North Springs, and at South Carolina 555 and Faro Road. Got another one on Highway 1 at Augusta Road at Park Lane Road and Decker Boulevard. One on Highway 60 at US 176 at Broad River Road. One on 26 eastbound at Lake Murray Boulevard near exit 102 and 26 eastbound at St. Andrews Road at exit 106.
Welcome back into the postgame show on this Friday afternoon. It's a football Friday. Jay and Elijah with you. Our buddy Patrick Davis hanging out today. Surprise guest about halfway through the show. Come on in, but he, stealing Elijah's liquor. enjoying time with friends?
No, that is all apple juice at my desk.
Yeah.
Just apple juice. Yeah.
All an act. I was like, oh, don't tell me it was an act.
Yeah. It's apple juice, man. Just don't smell it.
All right. Who have we got ready to go, Elijah Campbell?
We got Dakar and James.
Dakar and James are on, so let's cue the band, and we will play this week's edition of the Wild Card Showdown. Dakar, how you doing?
I'm doing great.
Good to have you on. Good to have you on. All right. James, how are you, sir?
Hey, I'm fine.
All right. Well, guys, here's what we're going to do. 4 games against the spread for all of us. Got a wild card game, everybody to play individually, and a tiebreaker stat if we need it. Elijah Campbell is on fire. 5-0 last week. He went 5-0 for you.
I'd love to go 5-0 for you on a
or I guess 2 weeks ago. 4-1 last week. Yours truly was really bad last week. So for the season, Elijah is 16-14 against the spread. I am 13-17. I don't know if that helps you guys feel any better or not, but we'll see. Dakar, we'll start with you. The game of the week, number 2, Ohio State. Number 3, Oregon. It's in Corvallis, or excuse me, in Eugene.
Oh, yeah, you'd get crucified.
Oh, my cousins are going to kill me. I got so much family out there, they're going to kill me. All of them went to Oregon except for one. One cousin went to Oregon State, and she's the black sheep of the family now. Anyway, Ohio State is a 3-point favorite at Autzen Stadium tomorrow night. Dakar, what do you think?
I'm going with Ducks.
The Ducks plus the points at home. James. Ohio State to assert themselves. All right, champ.
What was that number again?
3.
Oh, at 3. You know what? I'm going to say yes to Quack. Give me the Ducks.
Oregon to get it done. I feel like, you know what? I just feel like, here's why my reasoning is terrible sometimes, but I just feel like Oregon, you got to make the statement, man. You just got to make the statement, right?
You have to.
And they're a good football team. Ohio State is definitely more talented. There's a reason they're a road favorite. But I will take Oregon plus the points at home. So let's see what happens. All right, James, we'll let you go first on this one. The big one in the Southeastern Conference also sees a road favorite. Ole Miss, 3.5-point favorites at LSU. Obviously, schools that both or that Carolina fans have seen this season. Ole Miss is the favorite, though. James, what do you think?
I think somebody knows something because it's at LSU at night, but I'm going to go the opposite way and say Ole Miss.
Ole Miss minus the 3.5. Dakar.
I'm going LSU.
LSU. I'll let Elijah go last on this one. I have gone back and forth, and then I've gone back and forth some more. And I think LSU, with the points, is going to get this one done. I'll take LSU plus the 3.5.
That is so tough because I do believe Ole Miss wins this game. Do I just believe they win it by more than 3? Yeah, give me Ole Miss.
Ole Miss. Yeah. All right, we'll see what happens. To the NFL we go. Mr. Campbell, I'll let you go first. We got that big one with the quarterbacks. Baltimore hosting Washington and Jaden Daniels, but it's Lamar's Ravens that are 7-point favorites at home.
Ooh, give me the Commanders to cover.
Washington to cover the spread. I will take that as well. Washington is playing very good football. Why not? Again, giving them 7 points, I'll take that. Dakar, what do you think? Baltimore minus 7 over Washington.
Where's it being played at?
In Baltimore.
I'm taking the Ravens.
Taking the Ravens minus the points. James.
Baltimore's real close, so I'm going to go with the Redskins. So, I mean,
the Commanders. All right, yes.
Artist formerly known as.
That's right. I still think Commanders, whatever. Washington football team just had like a really.
It was hilarious.
I liked it. I'd have kept it, but they didn't. So whatever. They don't listen to me. All right. The other one in the NFL, Detroit is at Dallas. A lot of road favorites on the showdown this week. Detroit, 3-point favorites in Dallas. Last week, I went against my better judgment and took Dallas, probably because I allow my wife's fandom of the Cowboys to cloud my judgment. This time, I'm going to do that again. Dallas plus the points at home. I think Detroit wins a very tight game, like by 1 point. That's what I'm going to tell myself. Dallas covers the spread. James, what do you think? Detroit -3 in Dallas.
Cowboys.
Dallas, says James. Elijah Campbell.
I will also go Cowboys because they will win outright.
Dallas, says Elijah Campbell. That leaves Dakar. A clean sweep, or you got the Lions, Dakar?
I'm going with everybody. Take the Cowboys.
Taking the Cowboys in that one. We shall see. You like any of those road favorites, PD? Okay. Yes. It's not good. It's not good. I hear you. But it's in Dallas, so maybe that helps. Maybe. Wild card time, guys. Dakar. I will draw yours first. Kansas State, 3.5-point favorites at Colorado. Again, a road favorite this week. K-State, 3.5 at Colorado, Dakar.
Much as I don't want to, I'm going to take Dion.
Colorado, says Dakar. James? You get a home favorite, James. Good for you. Tennessee. Tennessee is a 14.5-point favorite at home over the Florida Gators. What do you think, James?
Tennessee to cover.
Tennessee. He didn't even hesitate. Did you hear that? That was straight up confidence right there. Yeah, there you go. Elijah Campbell. Guess what you get? A road favorite. Penn State. 3.5 all the way across the country in L.A. against the Trojans.
Give me the Trojans. That's plus 3.5. They're going to win outright, Jay Phillips. That is the upset of the week.
Upset of the week. There it is. You heard it here, folks. SoCal plus the points. Yours truly has a neutral site game. Texas, 14.5 over Oklahoma. Texas wins the game. Give me Oklahoma and those 14.5 points. What do you think about that one? Oh, my. Okay. Do you want Oklahoma bruised and battered when they take on the Gamecocks, I guess? That help? Okay. All right. So Patrick Davis espouses nothing but violence against the Sooners.
Yes, always choosing violence.
At the Cotton Bowl. All right, the tiebreaker stat, guys. Listen closely here. Combined rush yards for Lamar Jackson and Jaden Daniels. Yes, 2 quarterbacks, but they both run well. Combined rush yards for Lamar and Jaden. James, I'll let you go first.
118.
118. James is decisive. I like it, James. You're doing well, man. Dakar, what do you think?
145.
145, says Dakar. I'm going to give the nod to Elijah to go last because he's earned it. James, I kind of like your number, but I'll go in between you boys. All right, we'll have some fun with this one. 131. 131.
I'm going to go 107.
Look at you, such a company man. You want to go 107
and a half?
0.5? See what we did.
Coincidence? I think.
That's it. Yeah, you're out. Sorry. Well, it just had to be done. All right, Dakar, James, thank you, boys. We appreciate you listening. We appreciate you putting up with us. We appreciate you playing along. And again, if you can beat us and the other guy, then we hook you up with one of our 107.5 The Game craft beer passports. Good for all kinds of beer at all kinds of places all over town. So good luck, boys. Enjoy the football. We appreciate you.
Good deal.
Thank you.
All right, thank you, sir. We appreciate you very much. That's Dakar. That's James. That's the Wild Card Showdown. What do you think about that Ole Miss LSU game?
Man, I think that's interesting because I don't think either one of those teams are really that great.
Oh yeah.
I think they're. But is it night game at LSU?
Yeah.
Yep.
That's tough.
Yeah. I told Elijah yesterday. I'm curious about that one because I've seen them both in person, and I just want to see what they do against one another. Because Carolina played really well against LSU, and they played like crap against Mississippi. And I want to see if it has as much to do with how good Mississippi really is, or what. I'm not sure as of yet. All right, thanks to Dakar and James. We'll do a quick drive around the SEC and final thoughts on the Gamecocks coming up. Welcome back in. Final few minutes of the post-game show here on this Friday afternoon. Jay Phillips, Elijah Campbell, our buddy Patrick Davis hanging out while he is in town. TV show's going well. 2 episodes so far.
We have 2 of them out. Yeah, Southern Songwriter with Patrick Davis. It aired last night, I think, on ETV around here. So you can find it on the PBS app. And so it's every Thursday in October. It's been a lot of fun.
And next week you're playing with somebody who's in one of my favorite bands.
Yeah, next week's episode is with my buddy Gabe Dixon, who plays in Tedeschi Trucks. I think ETV, also shows it on Sundays at 6 p.m.
Ah.
You guys can, after you watch a little football, you're having some dinner, you can watch it.
Or those of you now who have the ability, set your DVR. That's what we always like to say, right?
You can stream it at any
Set your DVR.
TiVo.
PBS, you can go on the PBS app anywhere in the world. So if you guys are listening right now in Norway, we probably got a lot of folks in Norway.
Sure, we're big in Oslo, man.
We're probably about 2 in the morning over there or whatever.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
God, man, I can't wait to hear what you have to say about it.
We're appointment listening in Oslo. Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah, it's going great, man. It's been a lot of fun, and getting to celebrate South Carolina and stuff for a national TV thing is pretty.
Yeah, it's cool, man.
I'm finally using my degree from the university. I'm a history major, and this is the first time I've ever used it for conversations.
Using your degree, huh? I hadn't thought about that yet. Huh. Well, I'll see what I can do. I got time left. I got
It's the
time.
most expensive piece of paper I own.
I love when you said TiVo, but my wife still says just TiVo that, and because we had the TiVo name brand for it. I miss TiVo, the little bloop bloop.
Oh man, it was really cool.
TiVo was great. I think they still make it, but you just don't need it anymore. That's the unfortunate part.
The old radio station I used to work at had TiVo in every single studio, and I was like, "This is a relic. You can never get rid of this. Like this
Like a VHS.
is an artifact. It's an
A
artifact
floppy disk. Wow.
or a fax machine."
Just thinking about how I'm feeling a little old today. There's an Instagram that's really funny with the Tampa Bay Bucks. Ask their rookie players. They go, "Hey, what is this?" And they're giving them like a VHS cassette, and they're like, CD. They don't know what it is. They got a whole list, and it is like just the most terrifying thing to watch. You're like, how do you not know what that is?
My youngest, who is 16, bought a used CD player, and it sounds pretty good. It's a Bose. It sounds pretty good, actually. But she has got. I have a cabinet full of 600 CDs. So not quite. Just 500.
All Fish live shows.
That's right. Yeah, those are bootlegs. Now I have plenty of those. Now she's just gone in and but I guess it was kind of like, for a lot of kids that went into their parents stash of albums back in the day, and I feel like, man, but these are CDs. Like they're still going to sound great,
Also, vinyl. People love vinyls.
I just don't get that. I get it, but I don't, because again, the first time you play a record, you've basically degraded it.
Yeah, but it's a piece of art. It's like something you could actually hold. I think that's what's special.
Yeah. Well, I have a couple of albums on the wall, in our game room. I've just, I bought those album frames. Yeah. But I'm not going to play them.
Oh,
I don't want to hear.
sound.
I don't want to hear that
kinda do.
anymore.
I kind of do.
There is something, I will admit, there is something to it. But I yours truly will not be investing in vinyl and a record player. As
More for me.
called it. No, can I not just download it like the kids do? Okay.
It's just not going to mean as
When
much.
is the new album
Soulless.
coming out?
December 6th.
Okay. Because I've heard now a lot of the songs that you've been releasing, they'll just that will compile the album.
There's Carolina When I Die is the name of the album, and it comes out, I believe the single Carolina When I Die comes out next Friday.
Well, I've told you before, but LOVE is on heavy rotation on my.
Clemson got this
You can hit him
That's
on
good.
hit him on Twitter at PD Music. No, man, I'm glad you came on. You need to get it.
We're gonna win tomorrow. I got a feeling. I was at that game against Alabama. I bet there's some listeners out there that were at that game back in
2010 was the big win over number one. For as fun as that was, I was telling Ryan when they were playing, and it had nothing to do with Ryan. No, I'm kidding. But no, when Carolina beat Bama in 01, down 12 with about 8 or 9 minutes to play, and you could just tell, Phil Petty was so calm, and I was like, Carolina's going to win this game. And, Phil just let him down. Defense made a stop. Phil let him down again. Carolina wins. First win over Alabama. But in 10, they were just – no.
Oh, him outside in the hurricane?
No.
Yeah. Saw his butt cheeks.
Don't do it while you're driving, folks. But just it's like a national treasure we got here.
Something. The national something. All right. So, yeah, look, for me, let it hang out tomorrow, you know.
Like I was going to say,
there you go.
sticking on theme.
Why not?
Yeah, absolutely.
But you got to do some things you haven't done. You cannot go in there tomorrow, and not that they would, but you can't go in playing not to lose. And you don't have much to lose by just trying to find some ways to get those explosives.
Let it fly, man.
Yeah.
Defense is going to have the game of its life, and offensively, you've got to find where your easy buttons are.
Always appreciate Langston Moore's time. And again, PD, glad you stopped by. Appreciate you. Again, PatrickDavisMusic.com, PD Music on Twitter, and go there to find out all of what Patrick is up to. Y'all have a safe, fun weekend, and we'll do it again on Monday. So long. And one more about AAA Heating and Air before I get you out of here. Listen, do you have a crappy, old, ugly HVAC system? And you're like, man, I bet this thing could set some records. Well, then AAA wants to hear from you. Here's what you need to do. Go to myoldair.com. Follow the instructions on how to enter the contest if you believe you have the oldest, ugliest HVAC system in the AAA service area. And then for every 100 entries that they receive, they're going to draw a winner to get a brand new HVAC system. It's that simple. It really is. Just log on to myoldair.com and go from there. All the rules, everything on there, what you need to worry about, okay? It's, again, that simple, and you could win. Somebody's going to. And 1 in 100, that's pretty good odds. All right? All your needs, 803-677-1500. Do what I've done, Bill Gunner, many others. Stay comfortable with AAA Heating and Air.